And now, introducing a man who just put pen to paper on a fully guaranteed 5-year, $230,000 contract for PressBox Sports, plus free smoky thigh wings for the duration of the contract. Lunch is on him, and so is the joke. He is Glenn Clark.
And know the risks and have a plan before you start gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. Good morning. It is Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn Clark. He is Paul Valley. It is a Would You Rather Wednesday edition of the program brought to you by Glory Days Grill. We'll get to that here in a bit, although the scenarios are already up at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter, facebook.com/Glenn Clark Radio. You can find them there. Coming up on the program today in just a few minutes, we're going to chat with Marc Ross from the NFL Network, former Giants front office executive, get his thoughts on the ongoing saga of the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Steve Bisciotti, of course, speaking to the media yesterday. We'll cover that here in a second. Also later on this morning, Drew Forrester joins us as he does every Wednesday. We will check in with our buddy Drew, who's going back on the radio. Who would do that? Who would go back on the radio after all of these years? What a stupid, to do a Sunday show? That's so dumb. I can't believe that anybody would do that. Please remember that Sarita Hubbard and I, it's real weird how it's working out. Drew's starting on the 10th. We're not sure exactly yet when we're starting, but we'll let you know. Drew, I know, is starting on Masters Sunday. Will be his first episode. I think it's Fairways and Greens or something. I don't remember. I'm sorry. He's my lead-in. I should probably know. We'll talk about it with Drew. Also this morning, our buddy Greg Rosenthal, NFL.com, Around the NFL, NFL Network, and all the various places. And, of course, the host of the number 2 podcast in the entire Dominican Republic, Courts of Thunder. Greg will check in with us. We'll talk football. He tells me he disagrees with something I said about Lamar Jackson. So I like that because it means we can have a little healthy debate there. And then we're gonna talk about tennis because it's what Greg and I do. Man, you guys can tune out if you want, but we're gonna do it anyway. For those of you that are Courts of Thunder fans, so that is on the way this morning here on GCR. You guys might have questions. I know a lot of you reached out. I sent out kind of a cryptic, and I alluded to it on the program yesterday. I sent out kind of a cryptic tweet about this big guest that we had scheduled for today. I'm not yet ready to talk about it. Not yet, because conversations are ongoing with this person, not this person, but their camp, about what they'd be willing to talk about with us. And nobody is coming to us because we're a bastion of journalism. Like, nobody is doing that. But there is still an amount of journalistic integrity that we have to keep up, and I'd like to hope that you guys would expect that. And so we were offered a very significant guest, and I was happy to have that person on the show. We scheduled it for today, and then we were, told that we could only talk about certain things. And, as you guys know, there's this famous clip, right, of Mike Francesa saying, we're not going to go down to the Super Bowl and let everybody come on and just plug whatever it is they want to plug. And then there's this, the fast cut to him going to the Super Bowl, and literally it's just nothing but him letting people come on and plug whatever it is they want to plug. We do that all the time. I've never – if in order to have a conversation with somebody, we got to let them plug an aftershave, or they got to let them plug whatever it is they're plugging. Was it famously? Was it Matt Harvey that did the interview on Dan Patrick, where he was like, "I'm just here to really honor and recognize Qualcomm." And Dan Patrick's like, "Can we talk to you about your injury?" He's like, "No, I'm just here to honor and really shed some light on Qualcomm." It was one of the more embarrassing things that you've ever seen.
God, poor Dan Patrick. That and Kyler Murray just saying nope.
Yeah, yep. Look again. Even then, at least he asked the questions, and that's sort of the point that I've made is I just have to be able to ask the questions, whatever the answers are. I can't force somebody to answer a question. Mm-hmm. Dan Patrick couldn't force Kyler Murray to answer the question, but you have to be able to ask them.
Right?
Like, I can't agree ahead of time. I will not ask certain questions. It's funny because every now and then you'll get somebody. I'm trying to remember. I swear to God, like Sean Merriman's been a regular with me over the years. And I remember, like, one time, it was like, you can't ask him about his relationship. And I was like, I don't even know who he's dating. I don't even know who he's dating. Why would I bring that up? Every now and then we'll get something like that. And it's just so not relevant to us that it's like, that's fine. It actually doesn't. I'm happy to do that because I had no interest in talking about that anyway. Or as Drew and I talked about, we had Jennifer Garner come by one time, and they were like, you can't talk to her about so-and-so. And I was like, I don't even know who so-and-so is. It's fine. We'll talk about whatever.
Later found out it was me.
Yeah, correct. It was Paul Valley who had been secretly dating Jennifer Garner, and they had this lovely daughter, Jessica, who's not doing quite well for herself.
Yeah, she won't let me be involved. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Real shame for you, bud. Just a real shame. I'm sorry.
Me?
We'll talk about that later.
Too.
Yeah,
Me too.
right. It doesn't help anything. But I would say there's still a chance that this segment will occur. That's all I can say. Hell, I don't know. There's a chance this person might call today. I don't know. Who knows? We actually are. We're not certain this person didn't call yesterday. We got a call at 11 o'clock yesterday, and we're not sure who it was from because who were we talking to at 11 o'clock? We were talking to somebody. Oh, Patrick. Patrick was on the phone with us. We were not expecting a call at 11 o'clock yesterday, and we unfortunately still have. Paul, show everybody the Brady Bunch 1970 phone system we're working with. That's, if you ever confuse yourself into thinking that people are like, boy, you guys, you were the first, you went online, you took the show on
state of the art.
Like, no, not that
1977 X300 telephone.
Might as well have 2 cups and a string at this point. That's
actually how our interview happened for this job. Was 2 cups and
correct.
A string.
That's a good point. And by the way, I was impressed that you had it lying around. And I said, it was MacGyver-ish from you. And I said, that's how I know.
Gotta be prepared.
He's right for the job. So yeah, we got a call at 11 yesterday, and it might have been from the person that we've been negotiating with. I'm genuinely not sure. I don't know. So anyway, the moral of the story being, I will promise that if it doesn't happen, or I know it's not going to happen, I will tell you guys about it. While we're still having the conversation, I'm going to continue to leave it alone because it is a pretty prominent guest, and I do think it would still be better to have that person on than to potentially risk it by revealing too much at the moment. So I hope you guys will be willing to trust me on that. I mean, my God, if you've come out of your way to find the show for as long as we've been doing it, I'd like to hope there's an amount of trust that's involved when we say something like that. That's all I can tell you right now. I just wanted to make sure that we covered that because we had teased a big guest coming up for today's show, and we got it. Drew Forrester is going to join us today at 10:40. We landed the white whale, and I'm not making a joke about Drew Forrester's size. That's just saying
live from his hot tub.
Who knows? Who knows where he might be? All right, so there's that. Now, on to more pressing matters. Steve Bisciotti indeed spoke with the media yesterday down in Palm Beach. And, didn't provide much more clarity, but at least gave us, the owner's perspective. And I think if you're looking for something that makes you feel at peace, Steve Bisciotti saying, we're going to pay Lamar would probably make you feel at peace, right? Like, the Ravens, anybody who's saying something like, well, maybe the Ravens are still wondering if he's good enough. Well, Steve Bisciotti is painting a different picture. Steve Bisciotti is painting a different picture about where they are in relation to Lamar Jackson. Couple of the quotes that stood out. I'm pulling this from ESPN.com. The kid is so obsessed with winning a Super Bowl that I think deep down he doesn't think he's worthy. I think he wants that to say, now I deserve to be on top. People can speculate any way they want. I don't think he is turned on by money that much, and he knows it's coming one way or the other. That's interesting. Now, he's saying that he's speculating that. He's not saying that he knows that. He's not saying Lamar Jackson told them that. It still wouldn't make a lot of sense from a player standpoint. Like, if you never win a Super Bowl, you're never going to get a contract because that would seem super odd. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Like, there are Hall of Fame players. Jim Kelly never won a Super Bowl. Hall of Fame quarterbacks have gone their entire career without winning a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers might end up in the Hall of Fame. I think most people believe he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame. Never won a Super Bowl. Never got to a Super Bowl, frankly. It would seem a bit much for the Warren Moon never won a Super Bowl. It would seem a bit much for the standard to be either I have to win a Super Bowl or I can never sign a contract.
Not to mention he just stated his life goals this month are A, to win a Super Bowl, and B, to be a billionaire. So I think money kind of matters, it seems.
100%.
But although it did come across that was more about the stature of being a billionaire than specifically being a billionaire, the way he said it, at least to my ears.
I didn't read too much into it, but I hear you. The response to Deshaun Watson's contract I thought was also interesting from Steve Bisciotti. Quote, I'm trying to answer that when I had a reaction to it, and it's like, damn, I wish they hadn't guaranteed the whole contract. I don't know that he should have been the first guy to get a fully guaranteed contract. Pause. I think we can all agree about that. Go on. To me, that's something that is groundbreaking, and it'll make negotiations harder with others. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to play that game, We shall see. If I was in bogged down negotiations with Lamar, then maybe I would have a quicker reaction to that news. So I'm going to come back to a couple points that have been made, and we'll present these with Marc Ross, who's going to join us here in a few minutes. I'm going to come back to a few things. One thing that I said yesterday, I ended up engaging for a while with a few different people about this, is it's weird to me, like, for example, Mike Tannenbaum, who we reached out to, and I think there's a chance we might end up chatting with Mike Tannenbaum. Mike Tannenbaum was talking about how Lamar Jackson might go down as a Hall of Fame agent for what he's pulling off. Look what he did by waiting and letting Deshaun Watson go first. Now he's set up. And my response to that is, right, but you have to still do a deal at some point. We can keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and the numbers will always go up. But in order for you to actually have that pay off, you have to sign a contract. You have to get money out of the process. And if Lamar Jackson goes into next season playing on his fifth-year deal instead of a new deal, he's leaving money on the table. That part cannot be debated. If he signs a deal now, he can have more guaranteed money coming his way than what he would be getting if he just plays on the fifth year of his rookie contract. There is no reason why it's a benefit. The idea that you just keep letting more quarterbacks do their contracts and keep seeing where things escalate, there's two trade-offs there. The first being, of course, the risk part of it. And you can point out that, yes, Dak Prescott got hurt and still got a massive contract afterwards. You don't know what someone's specific injury is going to be. As I've said before, my God, let me knock on every piece of wood that I can find. But you never know if Lamar Jackson's injury is going to be more similar to Alex Smith's injury. And again, my God, let me have a wood. I don't just want to keep knocking on wood as I say all these things. You just never know. You never know when something happens away from the field that ends up being detrimental to your career. Something along those lines. You are trading off guarantees. And then there's the second part of it, the part that nobody really wants to talk about, which is the quarterbacks now understand they can hold NFL teams hostage. Deshaun Watson was able to get a fully guaranteed contract from the Cleveland Browns because the Browns had decided they were in a spot where they had to do better than Baker Mayfield, and there was only one way for them to do that. So they had to give up everything in order to make sure they got their guy.
Including their souls.
100%.
Allegedly.
Whatever, we should say something like that. The quarterbacks hold the league hostage. If Lamar Jackson agrees to a deal right now and the numbers escalate towards $75 million 2 years from now, you know what Lamar Jackson can do? Demand another contract. Because you know who had a contract and didn't need one this offseason but managed to get one because a team needed a quarterback? Deshaun Watson. Every player can redo their deal to make it more favorable to them. That's a quarterback. If you continue to be a successful quarterback. If you don't, you're not getting the money anyway, so the point is moot. You can't make this make sense, which doesn't mean that Lamar Jackson deserves criticism. He has every right to do it. If Steve Bisciotti is correct, and Lamar Jackson, just in his being, says, I want to win a Super Bowl before I do this, before I do the Boku deal. I mean, kudos to him. He's allowed to make whatever decisions he wants. It wouldn't be the decision that Glenn Clark would make, I ain't waiting until I'm the number one. We're the number 2 podcast, not this one, Courts of Thunder in the Dominican Republic. I'm not waiting until I'm the number 1 podcast. I'm going back and negotiating today being the number 2 podcast. I'm saying up yours, David Ortiz. Your podcast sucks. Mine's number 2. Numero dos. I don't even know what number 1 is for what it's worth. We just found it. It was super random. I got an email saying we're like the number 1 podcast in all of Serbia and the number 2 podcast in all the Dominican Republic.
That's cool.
It was very weird, bro. It was really
It's weird, but it's cool.
I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
You can literally walk around going, we're number 1.
Well, we did a bit with it, but it makes no sense whatsoever. And it's not a podcast to make any money off of, so it doesn't help me anyway. But if you'd like to change that moving forward, we'll accept sponsorships for Courts of Thunder. Anyway, the moral of the story being that I am I'm in a place where I don't think Lamar Jackson deserves any amount of criticism at all. But to try to portray him as being brilliant, he still doesn't have a contract. We're kind of just talking out of our ass. And it just might be a personal thing with him. Like, I have certain goals, and he can do that. But we can't make this make sense. It's winning replacement theory. If you're someone who loves Lamar, you want to say, like, Lamar's so smart. And ultimately, I still don't doubt that Lamar Jackson is going to end up getting a contract worth a lot of money. The Ravens do have to think about, are we going to be able to get there? Are we going to come to a place where you are going to feel like it's time? Because it is problematic for them. And if there's a side of this, right, like if in only hearing the Ravens side of the equation, because that's all we've heard from, if only hearing the Ravens side of the equation means we're missing something, means we're missing the part where when Steve Bisciotti says, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to play that game. He's saying, we will never do a contract like that. And Lamar Jackson is saying, well, that's what I'm doing, or I'm not signing. That's standard now. I'm more reliable than Deshaun Watson is. I'm getting a fully guaranteed contract. One, I don't blame him one bit. That is standard now. And somebody is willing to give it. This goes back to the part that I don't understand. Why wouldn't you just demand a trade? There's somebody who desperately needs a quarterback that would be willing to risk it all in order to have you because they're afraid of what they might have otherwise.
And even if Steve Bisciotti felt that way, for him to come out and say that would be putting a nail in his own coffin. I think. I think it would be a bad look to just come right out with your star quarterback who needs a new contract, wants a new contract, saying this is what I want. For the owner to come out and say we will never pay a contract like that, it's not only a bad look for you, but it's a bad look to any other player that wants to sign.
100%, right? Like if you say I'm never going to be the team that does that, like we'll never be along. No, I get it. We do have to see what happens here. We do have to see if one alone, you could argue, does not make it standard. But it's going to be really hard for any team now to go back and say we won't do what the Browns did with Deshaun Watson. Because, as I said in one of the exchanges I was having yesterday about this, there are always bad teams. Mm-hmm. There are always desperate teams that players can use as leverage. You're not willing to do that? You know what's weird? The Panthers are. You're not willing to do that? You know what's weird? Washington is. You want to have no quarterback next year? It's fine. Trade me to Washington.
Now be one of those bad teams.
Right? And you get to go be that team moving forward. You don't willing to do that? You know what's funny? The Giants have decided they're willing to give up on Daniel Jones. They are willing to do this. The Seahawks realize they made a mistake and they want a younger, like whatever it is. My gut is teams are going to have to do this now moving forward because the quarterbacks hold the league hostage. It is so simple. There was another quote, and I want to try to pull it up, that Steve Bisciotti said about not having a quarterback. Oh, man, I got to try to find it somewhere because it was exactly what I have talked about in terms of where the teams are in relation to the quarterback position. No, I got three different. Right, God, it's going to drive me nuts because it was something about how it's not fun and you just don't. It's not something you want to do to not have a quarterback. God, there's 6 different write-ups, and this is on me. I'm sorry, I didn't have it prepared. I'll come up with it at some point. But it's exactly what I said. These teams understand. As much as you want to say we don't want to pay quarterbacks this money, the dirty secret is the quarterbacks are starting to figure out what their tangible value is more like 51% of the salary cap. You find it?
I found it. He said, I think without a quarterback that you believe in, life sucks as an NFL owner and a fan base.
That's the end of it. That's the end of it. That's the most telling thing that Steve Bisciotti said. We can all not want to have to pay quarterbacks a certain percentage of the salary cap. But what is their actual value? I'm telling you, it's more like 51% of the cap. Because without a quarterback, you have no chance. None. Zero. You can win without certain other things. It's harder, but you can do it. With no quarterback, no chance. I'm not suggesting that suddenly you give quarterbacks 50% of your cap, but they're understanding exactly what their actual value is. And you're going to be held hostage because of it. That's the reality. Today's show is also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Always a great time to be there. 61 self-service kiosks, and they continue to offer you. You're there for the Final Four on Saturday or with Rodney Elliott and I on Monday night for the title game. You're there, and you make a $50 or more bet on any NCAA tournament game. If you are a Live Rewards member, you can register that bet to win a $500 bracket bonus, whether that bet wins or loses. Still 3 more games to be played in the NCAA tournament, so get the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel. Make your $50 or more bet. We'll be hanging out with you on Monday night for the title game, and you can register that bet. If you're not signed up for Live Rewards, you can go to the window, and the friendly folks there will help get you signed up so you can register that bet. 10 Live Rewards members will win a $500 bracket bonus, even if they already won on their bet. Let's welcome back into the program NFL Network analyst and the former front office executive with the New York Giants as they won a couple of Super Bowls among a few stops in his distinguished career. It's a pleasure to once again welcome Marc Ross to the program. Mark, it's Glenn and Paul in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, sir. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Of course, my pleasure.
Mark, can you put yourself in the shoes of the Baltimore Ravens right now and tell me what it would be like internally to be in a spot where you want to pay your quarterback, you want to keep him around, but we are to understand it's just sort of not a priority for him right now, despite the fact that he's going into the final year of his deal.
With all my years of experience, I'd love to land on this and say, well, we would do this, we would do that, but I've never seen this before. I mean, this is really unprecedented for this. You know, there's some delays here and there, weeks or months or whatever, negotiations. But then again, also, he doesn't have an agent. So that also makes it a situation that has never been seen before where you're negotiating with a player. And I've said this the whole time talking about them. I just don't even know how the logistics of this works. If he's calling them, they're calling him, or they talk to his mom. I just don't know how it works. So that's interesting to see how that does. And usually with negotiations, you know, if you talk to the agent, sometimes it gets a little, contentious. And, you can yell, scream, say things, but okay, you move on. You know, you're trying to do business. But now with a player, that just adds that extra layer of delicacy of like what delicateness. Wow, how do we approach him? And does he, can we get a little bit personal with? So it just throws a whole bunch of things in the mix that are really unprecedented that I'm not sure how they're actually dealing with it.
Mark, the impact of Deshaun Watson's deal, and Steve Bisciotti spoke about this yesterday down at the owners' meeting, saying, damn, I wish they hadn't guaranteed the whole contract. I don't know that he should have been the first guy to get a fully guaranteed contract. And then added, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to play that game, And my question, we were just talking about this a second ago, is that true? Or does one team doing it with one player make it so that now this is going to be standard and every Lamar Jackson, whoever it's going to be moving forward, is going to say the precedent has been set. You're going to give us a fully guaranteed contract because Deshaun Watson getting it proves that there's some team out there that would be willing to do it because they don't have a quarterback right now.
Yeah, and on all levels, yes, I agree with Steve Bisciotti saying yes, they should not have done that, and it makes it harder. But yeah, for sure that they're looking now each quarterback, because what has happened with quarterback contracts in the past is, okay, who's the next guy up, and they get the higher contract, even if they didn't deserve it. You know, there's been quarterbacks that have been the highest paid in the league who weren't the best quarterback in the league. So now with the Deshaun guaranteed situation, the next guy up, if that's Lamar, if someone jumps the line in front of Lamar to get their deal, it's, well, you know what? Yeah, he got it. So, yeah, I'm going to get it too. And if there is no, well, we can't do this now because that precedent has been set. And, the Browns, it's funny. People were asking, well, why did they do that? Well, because they were out of it. Because one day they said, Deshaun said, you're out of the mix. The next day, all of a sudden he signs with them. Oh, yeah, there's a guaranteed contract. So I think teams will definitely get desperate like that. And the quarterbacks will know that that's what the new market is. And I think you will see it now, even though it might be to the detriment of the team.
Marc Ross is with us, former front office executive with the Giants, now with NFL Network. Mark, what you're alluding to, this is why this is strange to me, right? I feel like this shouldn't be all that difficult. It seems like in the NFL, you identify, do you have a quarterback or do you not? And if the answer is yes, you might not want to pay him the absurd amount of money that we're talking about, but this is just the reality. You know what the number is. I'm almost like when we talk about negotiations, I don't know what could be negotiated, right? If the Ravens walked in and said, hey, look, man, you kind of struggled against the blitz down the stretch last season. We're a little bit worried about that. Even if Lamar had an agent, wouldn't his agent say, cool, you want to trade us or what, right? Like, doesn't the quarterback have all of the power in these conversations? Because the flip side argument is you don't have a quarterback and you have no chance.
No question. And that's why it's been kind of, why hasn't it been done already? And is it because he doesn't have an agent? I don't know. But, yeah, that's why it's been kind of flabbergasting that it's taken this much time. But, yeah, the quarterback has us. So what? As you mentioned, you can nitpick certain things about Lamar's game. But, all right, do you want me or not?
Right.
That's it. There's nothing else to talk about. Do you want me? Well, sign me and get the numbers right or I'm walking. And that's all it is. Other positions, you can kind of go about that and the value of the team and all, but it's cut and dry. When Lamar plays, you win. You got a chance to win a Super Bowl. If he doesn't, okay, now you're scrambling. So, yeah, this is really fascinating, and it's I don't know when it'll end. Hopefully soon for all involved because,
right.
Lamar's looking at that number. Just look at that number and go with it.
Boy, everybody in Baltimore is in complete agreement with you, except for maybe the talk show hosts, Mark, who say it does give us something to talk about every
Of course.
day.
Oh, you love it, right?
Yeah, right? That is the one. Although, yeah, I assure you, I think it'd be better for business if you got something done. Does the bubble burst at any point, Mark? Is there a point at which, like, we're just watching these numbers rise exponentially? Like, it wasn't that long ago that people were almost laughing at the idea of the contract that Patrick Mahomes signed and saying, look, nobody else is getting that. That's only for Patrick Mahomes. Well, maybe in years that's been the case, but numbers-wise, that's not been the case at all. Does it reach a point at which, like, the league, the Players Association, they have to do something to say this is completely out of whack? We're going to end up robbing other players because teams are so desperate about the quarterback. Do we get to a point where something has to be done to burst the quarterback bubble, or does it just keep going? I said before, based on the concept of, hey, if you've got no quarterback, you have no chance, you can make a tangible argument the quarterback is actually worth like 51% of your salary cap because you've got to have it, whereas you don't necessarily have to have something else.
Exactly. You have to have the quarterback, as you mentioned, and just look at the quarterback movement the last few years. And, okay, Tom Brady goes from New England, goes to Tampa, they win the Super Bowl. Patriots don't go to the playoffs. Matthew Stafford, all right, the Rams can't do it, leaves, goes, they win the Super Bowl. And then now Russell Wilson, the second he signs with Denver, they're going from, oh, man, if we do this and that, we're struggling. We possibly can make the playoffs. Now they're talking, the whole organization's talking about we can win the Super Bowl. So, but no, I think it'll just keep going because it's the salary cap will keep going up and the money the NFL makes will keep going up. So they'll keep more money will keep getting poured into the resources you can use on those guys. And the Players Association certainly is not going to say, hey, let's take money away. Hey, you guys just better find a way to pay the other guys too. So I think this is just the new norm. And it'll keep going.
At some point, it's going to have to drive something else down, though, right? Like, at some point, we already see the Chiefs moving on from Tyreek Hill. And
Yeah.
It
You always have to. Yeah, the Bills always do. People always ask me this question: is salary cap a myth? No, it's real. It's just the way that those guys are able to manipulate it and push the money forward. And the Brents do. Let's just push that. Let's make a payment plan on that instead.
right.
No, that money is due at some point. It's just the way that they move it around. And some players get sacrificed. You just lose track of the players that get cut because again, how significant are they to the team? And when you go next year, you start winning games, you forget about player X that you lose, or that the guy you paid a couple of years ago. Let's renegotiate your deal and bring that money down, or let's extend another guy. So all that stuff goes into play with the salary cap. It just moves the money around, but that money is certainly there.
Marc Ross is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio from NFL Network. You, of course, be part of their draft coverage moving. I can't believe we're within a month of the NFL draft at this point. We are really flying. Mark, with that said, it's so un-Ravens-like to even ask this question because it's just not how they do business. But is there an argument that away from the quarterback position, that what the Rams did makes more sense moving forward, knowing the quarterback numbers are going to keep escalating, that at some point all you really can do as an organization is plan for this year and then deal with the problems when you have to deal with them? Is there an argument to make? Of course, we're so used to the Ravens being the organization that's constantly thinking moving forward, never selling out for one season, and constantly trying to make sure they have a winner that they can put on the field. But is there an argument to, hey, look, if the quarterback's going to take up this much of your salary cap, right? And the Rams, between the two guys, between the money they still had on Goff and Stafford, it was a record number percentage-wise of what quarterback took up on their cap. Is there an argument that all you really should be doing moving forward is just worrying about this season and giving yourself the best chance for it and letting whatever problems come from that come down the road and worrying about that then?
There certainly is that argument, and especially since the last two teams that won the Super Bowl kind of pushed it all in. But in order to execute that plan, you have to have 100% buy-in from your owner. And that's the deal with people miss. Like the Rams didn't do this, the Bucs didn't do that in the bubble. Their owner said, yes, this is we like that. You guys go ahead and do that. The GM and the head coach, you go ahead and execute that plan. So will Steve Bisciotti say, Eric, let's do that. And I just don't think an organization like that or the Steelers, those sort of teams that always talk about, as you mentioned, the plan of being good for years to come and always having a chance. I don't know if those ownerships or other owners will sign off on that plan and just push it all in and sacrifice it all. So it's the argument to be made. All right, would you rather win this Super Bowl now, take a chance on it now and win it, or have 10 years of playoff wins and no Super Bowls? So that's a fascinating thing, but that all starts with ownership and the vision that they set and how they tell you to run the team.
It'd be interesting to see. It'd just be interesting to see if more teams do this and have success doing it at some point. Again, as much credit as we give the Ravens, and I want to make that very clear, they've done a remarkable job of continuing to be competitive at nearly all times, but it just might not be the best way to win specifically a Super Bowl any longer. It just might be the way that it goes about doing things. Mark, if I could pose this to you, we haven't had a chance to chat about it yet this morning. I was relieved that the league did something about overtime, and I'm okay with this sort of being the caveat. But now it creates this really interesting question, and you weren't a head coach, so I get that this isn't your decision. But from an organizational standpoint, what would your philosophy be in an overtime playoff game now? Would your philosophy be, we want to still have the ball first because we have the possibility of having the ball third in the first point in overtime where a single score could win the game? Or would it be, no, we're better off being the team that has the ball second, letting the other team do whatever they do, knowing what we have to do, and potentially being the team that goes for two, say in like that shootout situation we saw with the Chiefs and the Bills in the playoffs, and ending the game on our terms? Which way do you think an organization would want to go moving forward?
That's both. Yeah, I think
sure.
That'll be discussed all off season. A bunch of plans that they'll have, and they'll do a whole bunch of analytics on it. Have your analytics team in on that as well. So for me, I would rather let them get the ball first, and then okay, now we know what we got to do. Let's go for it at this kind of put you in a different sort of mindset. But it'll go bad. I'm sure you'll see teams make different decisions. I don't know if there'll be a ton of examples of it, but yeah, I think if it does happen, that it could go either way. I don't think there really is a great answer for that.
It actually fascinates me, Mark. Like, I love the idea that there's actually strategy involved. Instead of, of course we won the toss, we're taking the ball, except for Marty Morningweg once upon a time. I love the idea that now there's some thought, there's some strategy. Maybe the weather plays a factor. What kind of offense you have plays a factor. Like, I love the idea that there's actually going to have to be thought and strategy. I think that's a home run for the NFL that they end up including those things in the process.
Yes, you're 100% right, man. It's more to it than just what you see. There's a lot behind the scenes, a lot of game playing, a lot of strategizing about these, even just the most minute decisions. It's a lot that goes into it.
We know it's at Marc Ross, of course, with a C on Twitter. At Marc Ross is how you follow him. Mark, where are we seeing you? What's your next hit on NFL Network? What can we get plugs in for?
I'll be on, I guess, Monday, and who knows what else next week, and then all draft week, draft days, draft nights. All day, all night, during that draft. So it'll be a fun week, fun weekend.
You think there's any chance that we're gonna end up getting good news in Baltimore, and maybe like 2 of these quarterbacks end up going in the top 10 and pushing other players down to the Ravens at 14?
Oh yeah, you guys always get good players, no matter where you draft. So you guys are good. It doesn't matter whether you're 10th or 32nd. You guys are good. You're gonna get good players.
It worked out okay at 32nd with Lamar Jackson, that's for sure. Marc Ross, NFL Network. Appreciate taking the time for us this morning, my friend. Let's do it again down the road. All right.
No question. My pleasure.
That's Marc Ross checking in with us here on GCR. And look, I think this is the reality. I think the reality is you can say that this is an anomaly with the Browns and Deshaun Watson, but I don't know that it's going to be an anomaly with the Browns and Deshaun Watson. I don't know. The same way when everybody said, well, the Mahomes deal stands alone. It's for Mahomes and no one else. Well, until the next quarterback says, you want me? This is the number. You can have me, but you're having me at that number. Because they have all of the leverage. All of it. There is nothing you can do. You say, well, no, we don't want to do that. Cool. Somebody else does. Trade me to them.
And the fact of the matter is, let's say Lamar really is just, I want to win.
We should share. Lamar has tweeted this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I love my Ravens. I don't know who the hell putting that false narrative out that I'm having thoughts about leaving. Stop trying to read my mind. Yep. Sounds great, right? It still leaves that question. Then why isn't it done? You don't want to go anywhere. What are we missing? And I'm not trying to be critical of Lamar, because Lamar has every right to do anything he wants to do on his terms. Mm-hmm. There is nobody can tell me that people say all the time, why wouldn't you leave the market? Why wouldn't you go somewhere else? Why would you do this? Why wouldn't you go to, because it's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I have the right to do that. It's what I want to do. For my family, I don't want to leave. I had plenty of offers when the radio station went under to go to other places in the country, and I assure you they were lovely places. Think about turning down an offer in San Diego all the time. But it was best for my family. So I'm not questioning. It's confusing. That's the trouble.
And let's say that Lamar is trying to bet on himself and he wants to win a Super Bowl so that he can deserve that contract. When and if that happens, people that say this contract is for Patrick Mahomes alone, well, then at that point, what has Patrick Mahomes done that Lamar Jackson hasn't?
Yeah, I mean, again, I still don't think you have to do that in order to
right.
I know what you're saying,
mm-hmm.
and I would retort by saying you don't need to win a Super Bowl in order to get the contract. You're
right.
someone who can win a Super Bowl, and so you can get that extraordinary contract here or somewhere else.
Right.
We'll come back in. We'll chat with Drew Forrester next. Today's show also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Make the most out of every day in a Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models, a RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com today for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
The newest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farms stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people. People like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The biggest pro wrestling stars today and all time all have one thing in common. You've heard them on Jobbing Out.
Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
The great Kurt Angle.
Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Matt Riddle.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man.
The champ, Drew McIntyre.
Oh, thank you for having me.
The great Ron Simmons.
Damn.
Keith Lee.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Bill Goldberg.
My pleasure.
Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mick Foley is with us.
This is the greatest name for a wrestling show I've ever heard.
MJF.
I'm glad you're happy I'm on this show because I'm freaking miserable.
Le
champion.
Chris Jericho.
Le champion.
AJ, Aaron, Brandon, and Glenn are talking pro wrestling every week on Jobbing Out. Find it at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Stay tuned. Your chance to win $1 million is coming up. Probably not from us. You're listening to Glenn Clark Radio.
Drew Forrester, Drew'sMorningDish.com. He joins us every Wednesday here on GCR. What, are you really the radio? Who the hell goes back to the radio after 8 years away? Are you insane? What the hell are you doing?
Well, I got nothing else going on Sundays.
Yeah, it makes two of us.
Right. Well, I always, you could still do what you do every day. I couldn't do it, but I can talk about golf every day.
Yeah.
So
every day.
That's the difference between us. Like
Yeah.
could I go on a show? Could I do a regular sports talk show for 4 hours a day? Yeah. But I couldn't do it by myself because I'm just not that vested anymore. Could I sit in there and do it with you or do it with someone else and just occasionally, talk about something and throw in golf stories? I could do that. But I could never do 4 hours by myself again or 2 or 3 because I'm just not that vested in all of this anymore. But I could do golf. So when they came to me in January and said, would you consider doing a golf show? I'm like, yeah.
No, I figured this is basically what you would be doing from 12 to 1 most Sundays anyway. You would just have
correct. I don't have a radio microphone in front of me. So, I mean, of all of the things that I could be doing as it relates to media, that's the one thing that interests me the most is talking about golf. And, on a seasonal, when I mean seasonal, it may wind up eventually being a January to Labor Day kind of thing, but because of the timing and the Orioles and all that stuff, they wanted to wait until after April, but or after March, but starting in April. But I could do this every Sunday because I love golf.
Well, these are all the majors are now in this time frame.
Right, the majors are in this time frame. I do think that, the likelihood is eventually it'll be a 2-hour show, and I think the likelihood is it'll be moved to an early evening slot, but that could be a year away. you know.
Well, that'd be better news for me because I'm really nervous about you being our lead-in. I just got to be honest with you.
Well, you know, that's what they say. The key to having a big show is to have the good lead-in.
Yeah,
so you're in good shape.
We are screwed.
But, yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, it's golf, right? That's what I like to talk about, and I'll leave all the rest of the sports minutia to you, and you guys can talk about all the in-depth stuff that you like to talk about.
All right, so is he playing or not?
Well, I would say he's got to be playing at this point. I mean, it would be unless something happened yesterday that, you know, unless something happened to him physically where he woke up this morning and was like, man, I don't know anything about his golf yesterday. So, you know, there haven't been any reports about that other than there have been some rumors that people say he played, he looked great. But, like, there's nothing firm, but apparently he walked all 18 holes. That Bob Herrig reported that, and Bob Herrig wouldn't just say that without knowing it. He walked all 18 holes, and he walked the medalist on Saturday and Sunday, and that's for Florida, that's a tough walk, that golf course. So I would say he's got to be playing. I think just the fact that he didn't notify them earlier
right,
certainly is a feather in his, well, not a feather in his cap, but that's a good indicator that he's going to play. So at this point, I would be surprised if he doesn't play.
But even if he plays, we're assuming he's playing this. Like, if he gets through it, maybe he plays the other majors, right? Like, that's where we are, correct?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think, you know, he said in his press conference at the Genesis, like, the days of me playing a full-time schedule are probably over. He may just have been saying that. You never know with this dude, right? I mean, he could win this thing by 4 shots next week.
No,
like,
stop. Don't.
Of course he
stop.
could.
You can't do that.
Of course he could.
God,
he won the U.S. Open on a broken leg.
But he was like 27 years old then.
It was still a broken leg.
I
don't care how old you are.
He's like the greatest golfer of all time. I don't put anything past him.
That's fine. You don't really believe.
I'm certainly not saying he's going to win, but but could he win next week? 100%.
There are 50-1 odds for him to win the Masters, and I think you're insane. It's 50-1, and I think you're drunk if you put money on it.
Well, he could definitely win. Now, that's for sure. Now, whether or not he can go play, I don't know much about Southern Hills, which is where the PGA is. Obviously, St. Andrews is the flattest golf course in the world, so he could go play there. I think this will certainly be a telltale sign for him in terms of the physicality of it. I guess the good news for Tiger is he doesn't need, under normal circumstances, and maybe these don't exist anymore for him, under normal circumstances, he doesn't really need to see the golf course any longer. He knows it. I know that a couple of holes have been lengthened over the years. 5 plays much differently than it used to. 15 is a little longer than it used to be. 14 and 15 are both longer. 11 is longer. But as it relates to what's really important, which are the greens and the chipping areas, none of that has changed. So the good news for him is if he's healthy, he could just play 9 holes Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and be fine. He doesn't need who am I thinking of that would be a first-timer or second-timer? Like Will Zalatoris needs to go over there and see the place as much as he possibly can for 3 days.
Sure.
Tiger doesn't need that. So, you know, that's a benefit to him. He can play 9 holes Monday, relax, play 9 holes Tuesday, relax, play the par 3 if he wants on Wednesday. He doesn't need to see the golf course. So physically, if he's able to walk it, his preparation is pretty much done. And I think yesterday was just a chance for him to test it out, see if he's able to walk it. And I think the fact that he played the medalist Saturday and Sunday and walked there and brought LaCava in is, to me, I kind of, when I saw that Saturday and Sunday, I'm like, oh, he's playing. He wouldn't bring LaCava in and go through that over 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, if he wasn't playing.
How's he going to win when you already told me that Victor Hovland's winning?
That's correct.
How's that going to be?
I didn't say Tiger is going to win. I merely said he could win, and it wouldn't surprise me.
But if you know who's winning and it's not him, then he can't win, Drew. I don't know if you told me that Victor Hovland's winning the Masters.
Tiger could win at any tournament he plays.
Hey, Drew, I got a quick question for you. You and Andrew both said that you think Victor Hovland is going to win the Masters this
Which is bad
year.
news for you, pal. I'm sorry. It might be the way that proves you wrong.
I feel like Cam Smith has been playing incredible golf recently. Is there something about his game that doesn't play well at Augusta, or you just think Victor Hovland is just ready for that moment?
No, I like Cam Smith. I think Cam Smith's got a great chance. He'll be, I don't want to give away all my secrets, but I've got 7 guys left on my top 10, and he's going to be in there. He's played very, very well this year. The thing about Augusta is over the years, the methodology, if you will, of who's going to win has changed. It used to be you had to be a great putter. Only the best putters win there. Guys that can't putt don't have a chance. And it's changed a lot over the years. It's become far more of a ball striker's golf course. The putting and chipping has, I don't want to say it's greatly diminished, but Garcia, not a good putter. He won there. Matsuyama, obviously, under the gun, has been a not, I don't know, all these guys are great. He has not been a great short game player in his career. He won there last year. Dustin Johnson has never really been considered a great putter. He's been considered a great driver of the golf ball. Never been considered a great putter. He won there. Danny Willett won there. Adam Scott won there. So over the years, putting has not become as important. So I look at somebody like Cam Smith, who has historically not been considered a great putter, but has putted well this year, and he is he's a great fit for that golf course. So I would not be at all surprised to see him hanging around. It has not, other than, Norman played the golf course well, never won it. Adam Scott obviously won it. That place has not necessarily been great for this generation of Australian players, whereas it's been very, very good for the South Africans. But I think Cam Smith I think he's got a legit shot for sure.
All right, that's enough of that. We've covered that as far as we can cover. Drew Forrester, Drew'sMorningDish.com, with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. So Deshaun Watson gets a fully guaranteed contract from the Cleveland Browns, which, of course, we all have our qualms about, and it's insane. But the reality moving forward is this is what quarterbacks are going to want now. You have balked at the idea of even paying big money, more or less fully guaranteed contracts. Are you continuing to be of the opinion that when Lamar Jackson says this is the precedent now, you're going to have to give me a fully guaranteed contract, you say, I'm sorry, we're going to have to move you. We're going to do something else?
Boy, I don't know. I always answer every quarterback question with I don't know, because there doesn't seem to be any end in sight for how much leverage they've been getting. I mean, it's incredible, right? I mean, this dude hadn't even played in a year. I always say, he's never won anything. He's won some games in the NFL, but he's never won anything. And they're going to give him $230 million, all of it in his hand, and he's never done anything. So what does that make? And, I guess Lamar hasn't either, right? I don't put I couldn't care less about the MVP stuff. So when people start going, he won the MVP, who cares? But these guys,
you're saying, again, your standard is either you win a Super Bowl or you don't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but, I would look at somebody like Josh Allen and I say he hasn't even been to one yet.
No.
But I guess I hold him in somewhat of a little bit higher regard. But the reality is he hasn't won one yet either, right?
Yep.
And that's always been the debate about Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning won 2. That's correct. There were also other games you had to win along the way to get there too, right? In terms of the playoffs.
Sure.
But, I think Lamar, if you said to me, which one of these two guys you want to quarterback your team, Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson, I would say Lamar every day. Every day. I would never take Deshaun Watson over Lamar Jackson. But, I mean, if you're Lamar now, you say, how's $231 million?
Yeah, we ain't starting at a smaller number, that's for sure.
Right.
We ain't starting at less.
I guess this is the debate about quarterbacks in the league that much smarter people with much more invested in it are probably debating all the time. Do you stand a better? What's the validity of the argument that you've got to win with one of these guys in their first 5 years, other than the ones who are slam dunk, Hall of Fame, once a generation guys like Brady and Manning and Rodgers, who by the way has only won one time, but and Breeze only won one, right?
Yep.
But do you say, if you're the Ravens, we had this guy for 5 years, we had him at a bargain rate, we didn't win, let's just go back into the hopper and try it again? Or do you give him $250 or $300 million and hope you win one or two in the next 6 years? And I think that, to me, that's the boardroom question that they sit around and talk about. Philosophically, which of these two positions do we identify with? Do we believe that there's validity in, if you don't win with these guys in their first 5 years, just let them roll on somewhere else and start over? You did it once, right? I mean, you did it already. You took Flacco in the first round. Within 5 years, you benefited. You took Lamar in the first round. Within 5 years, within 4 years, you did okay. You didn't win a Super Bowl, but you still got 1 year left. But is that the boardroom question that they sit around and ponder? I don't know, but I think because there's a cap, I think if this were baseball, this wouldn't even be an argument.
Well,
if it were
baseball,
cap,
the number would be $500 million.
Yeah, right. But because there's a salary cap, it certainly is worth asking, do we let this thing play out 5 years? And if we don't win, do we just let him roll? And do we try it again? And I don't know that – I don't even know if I have an answer, and I don't know that I care enough to, sit down and sweat over it. But I think it's a legitimate question.
I understand what you're saying, and you know how I felt about this all along. And I think that Steve Bisciotti –
I would rather have him than not have him, 100%.
Steve Bisciotti saying when you don't have a quarterback, life sucks is entirely not only the way that I would operate, but clearly the way the league is operating, right? The Cleveland Browns bent over, literally sold their souls for Deshaun Watson because they have zero chance otherwise, right? They have no hope as an organization without that quarterback.
But here's the interesting thing about the Browns. If they, and I assume they are, if they've decided the Baker Mayfield era is over after four years, if they've decided it's over.
Is it 4 or is it 5? Actually, no, it's 4, right? Is it 4?
Yeah, this is his 5th year coming up.
Yeah, correct. That's right.
Right?
Yes.
If they've decided it's over, why wouldn't they just go back into the hopper to try to get another quarterback like him? Why would you give this dude $230 million of guaranteed money?
Because you know that you could end up getting Tim Couch, and you can end up getting Brandon Whedon, and you can end up this is overwhelmingly.
Well, you got to draft better.
Well, I understand that, but the simple percentages say there are far more misses on drafted quarterbacks than there are hits. There are plenty of hits. But in any given year, I mean, you can end up with Sam Darnold. You can end up with Daniel Jones. You can end up with insert name here. There are more misses on drafted quarterbacks than hits. So if this is the number to get a real quarterback versus the chance that maybe you end up with a real quarterback, I mean, I don't know how it's much of a question at that point.
Right. Well, maybe not. I mean, but I think that's what they're – I think it's pretty clear by the Ravens' commentary that now I think it's pretty clear this is all on Lamar, unless the Ravens are just flat out lying.
Or they're playing poker, right? If
they're lying to appease the fan base, then okay. But I think it's pretty evident that Lamar, at this stage, Lamar is rolling the dice a little bit and saying, and I think Steve said something which was really interesting. I think Steve said, it isn't really even that important toLamar. And maybe it isn't.
Right.
I mean, as weird as that sounds.
No, it's possible.
Hey, Lamar, you can get, why don't you come in and sign right now for $250 million? I'm good. I'm going to make $23 million this year. It's more than I'll ever be able to spend in my life anyway. I'm good. Like, maybe it isn't that important to him, which sounds bizarre.
Right.
But maybe that's the truth. And so maybe the Ravens aren't lying, and they've done a good job this last week or so of making sure the fans know, and Glenn Clark knows, and people know, we want him. We want to pay him. But I can't dance if you're not coming to the dance with me.
Right. Right.
So I just wonder if, and this is, Lamar's not, and I'm not, when I say what I'm about to say, by no means am I going to say he's going to play himself out of a job. But if Lamar rolls the dice and doesn't have a good 2022, he might, air quotes, only be a $25 million quarterback, right? Like, this is on him now.
Yeah,
I think it's very interesting that and I would love to know internally what the Players Association is saying to him. Because I got to believe they're saying to him, dude, go get $52 million a year from those guys today.
Right. Now.
Right?
Now.
Yeah.
Take every
because
penny.
when you do that, Justin Herbert's going to get $60 million.
Yep.
And when Herbert gets 60,
Joe Burrow's going to get 100, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and I've said this for the last 2 months. There are not a lot of things in sports that fascinate me anymore. This is a very fascinating story. Very fascinating, because you have a franchise that historically has been, quarterback deprived, and you have a kid who is, I don't even know what you call this kind of wealth. This is beyond generational wealth, right? You have a kid that could walk in there today and say, bear with me, just give me $200 million.
Right.
I'm good.
Right.
And the Ravens would say, come right here, sign. See this piece of paper? Sign that right now.
Yeah.
Here's the $200 million. You got it. Like $200 million, and he's not doing it. So it's fascinating, and it's a roll of the dice from an injury standpoint. It's a roll. There are so many ways that it's the roll of the dice, and yet he's already made whatever it is, $20 million playing football, and he's going to make $23 million more this year. And so in the end, he might just say, whatever happens, happens. I'm set. I got my mom a house. I'm good. Like, I think he's become a very fascinating person as well.
Oh,
I don't know him at all.
I agree
right?
with that. I do. I think he is extraordinarily interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah. I would agree. Like, this story of, and I'm, when I say what I'm about to say, I'm not trying to make this into a racial discussion. But the story of a young African American athlete who is seemingly playing the game much differently than he's probably being advised is really interesting to me. Most of the time, he would have some highfalutin group of 3 attorneys with their $3,000 suits on, all licking their chops, right? Looking to get their 3.7%. Sign this $300 million deal, right? Sign it today. And he's eschewed all of that wisdom and said, I'm good with this. I got this figured out myself. I think that's really extraordinary.
I don't disagree.
In this generation of athletics where everything is boardroom, here's what you got to do now. You got to sign this contract, and then we're going to get you in with MasterCard, and then what you're going to do, like, it's all planned out for you, right? It's pretty extraordinary that he says, I'm good with this. I got it handled. And you can imagine Eric calling him and saying, Lamar, I got this deal ready. It's $325 million. Come on in. And him saying, yeah, I'm good. You mean you don't like 325? No. 325 is perfect, but I'm not ready yet.
It's interesting to me to an end, right? Like, I keep coming back to that, Drew. I think there has to be an end to it. Like, we're watching people praise him. Well, look, he didn't take a deal, and now look at how big. Well, at some point you got to get a deal, or else there's no. If something terrible happens, and again, knock on every piece of wood, and never get a deal out of this, then all that praise is for naught. Like, the idea of guaranteed money is guaranteed money, and I think there's a second side to it that we don't want to talk about yet, which is the idea that all of these guys know just how much leverage they have, and that when we say, well, he doesn't want to sign for now because the numbers could escalate, And I say, right, and he can go back and say the numbers have escalated. You've got to give me another deal. You've got to rip up that deal. I think the side of this that we're missing is that the quarterback position can absolutely end up becoming like the NBA in the coming years, where all of these guys say, wherever the numbers go, that's where I'm going, or you're trading me to somebody that's willing to go there. That they constantly hold you hostage to make sure they're getting paid the top dollar.
I don't think this is, and I don't know, maybe in 2 years we'll find out that I'm wrong, but I don't think this is adversarial. And in fact, I think when Steve calls Eric and says, "What's going on with Lamar?" Eric probably says, Steve, I got no idea. This kid's insane. Like, I got the contract here. It's all ready. He doesn't want to come in and do it. Like, I can't make him do it.
Right. That's the only.
I don't think it's adversarial. I think the Ravens are kind of mystified by it, and he isn't saying anything either. Right. So it's not like he's playing the game publicly.
Right.
And I just feel like and I think Steve led on a little with his comments when he said he maybe, and again, this is Steve saying this is not Drew saying it. Steve saying that maybe he's almost ashamed of collecting that much, having done nothing. Now, that's what Steve said. You know, that Steve feels like Lamar wants to win.
He's not worthy, right? Yeah. Like,
that was his comment, right? That Lamar feels like he's not worthy. And if that were true, and again, maybe Steve bumped into him somewhere and said, "Dude, come sign this $300 million contract." And Lamar might have said, "Boss, I'm not taking that money from you. I haven't won you a Super Bowl yet." I could hear Lamar saying that.
I could
100% hear Lamar saying that, despite the fact that the Players Association would say,
what are you
"Get
doing?
your ass in there and sign it." Right. I can hear Lamar say, "I told him I was going to win them a Super Bowl."
There is still a part of this. The one place where there's still gray area is the Ravens can keep saying, "Hey, we want to pay him. We're trying to pay him. We're going to pay him," all of those things. The only report we had, and you can say whatever you want to say about it, but the only report we had about an actual number was the one from Lock and Four that said $35 million. So there is gray area that can be had here.
That.
And that's the point. The point being, the Ravens could publicly say, without Lamar combating it in any way, with him having no public conversation other than today going on Twitter and saying, you know, I stop it, I want to be a Raven, all that sort of stuff. With there being no response, no agent to push out information, the Ravens can say, we're trying to pay him, when the truth is, but they're not actually trying to pay him what we now know is market value for the quarterback at this point, right? Like, they could still be saying, look, we want to pay the guy. He doesn't want to talk to us. Well, if what you offered was $35 million,
yeah, no wonder.
Of course, you know what I mean? Of course he's not going to want to talk to you. That's Kirk Cousins' money at this point.
Right.
That's not Lamar Jackson money. It doesn't work that way. So we still need to get some clarification about that before I go fully on this is all on Lamar, which is, of course, what the Ravens are presenting. And, you know, I have no reason to doubt them. But the one actual report we have, and I get that the follow-up from a lot of people was, well, that's how you start conversations. That's not a final number. But look, you know, I could certainly see his team saying, look, man, talk to us when you're ready to actually pay the number. Like, you know, when you want to make the real offer, call us. If you're trying to get us to come to we're not doing any of that. You know what the number is. Call us when you're ready to do it. In the meantime, we'll just business as usual up to that point. If that's the case, I still don't understand why he wouldn't demand a trade and say, look, somebody's willing to pay me that number. Get me to that team. But, you know, there is still gray area in here that we've got to get kind of sorted out before I fully know what's going on.
I don't think the Ravens – I don't think – I mean, I know Eric. I'm not like Eric's best friend, but I've known Eric for a long time. I don't think Eric would lie to the media. I think Eric would say nothing before he would lie. I don't feel like the Ravens have ever – I mean, John, you and I would always used to joke around about being able to read John's body language. John would have to stand up there and fib occasionally because there were times when, from a competitive standpoint, you had to fib. But I don't think the Ravens have ever been really a dishonest organization.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Ray Rice thing would be the one time.
That was bad. And then even from a football standpoint, when they walked up there at the end of your press conference and said, we got bigger fish to fry than a quarterback, and they drafted Lamar Jackson, like that one to me was a tough one, because that was the first time I thought Steve Bisciotti ever openly, getting the backstory on what was going on at that point, he was. Oh, and I get it.
But again, you could make the argument that was a competitive.
Well, I understand, but
you could make the argument that they weren't.
Yep, they didn't want people to know that they were in on quarterbacks. They wanted to present the best opportunity for them to be able to get. I understand all of that, but I would still have to say publicly he openly lied about what the situation was, and I have to file that away when we talk about any of these things, right?
But I don't think in this case there would be any benefit at all to Eric lying and creating some sort of firestorm with Lamar.
I mean,
there was no
think
benefit
so.
there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's no benefit to the Ravens. In my mind, because he's going to be their quarterback this year.
I think you're right about that, right? I think you're right about that, but I do still think there's room in there for there to be. For us to find out the truth. It's like when we all harp on Lock and Four about his report about John Harbaugh losing his job, and we dismiss the fact that, like, we all remember what that season was like at the point at which that report came out. And we there's context that can be in there. I think there's room for context of, let's say they like Lamar, but they want him at their number. They're definitely not going to come out and say, well, we're not willing to pay him X amount of dollars. You know what I mean? Like,
if they trade him for Daniel Jones, they get to play each other this year.
There you go. They got that going for them.
That'd be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, sure. Let's play Would You Rather Wednesday.
No? Okay.
No. Would You Rather Wednesday, brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Final 2 days for you to try the St. Patrick's menu today, tomorrow. Then
by the way,
I'm
going there for lunch in about 20 minutes.
What are you getting? What's your plan?
I don't know. I got a cold, so I'll probably get some soup.
How old are you, man? Like, I know we make jokes, but you have talked about soup so many times now recently.
Well, I love soup.
Starting to have some questions.
I could live on soup and those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches you get at the store. They're pre-made.
I don't know if you're sick. Oh, the Uncrustables?
Uncrustables, they're delightful.
I don't know if you're 60
Dude,
or you're
those
6.
Are so good, it's insane.
The Nutella ones are really good too.
I could eat. They're so good. Anyway, go ahead.
I went last Thursday for some basketball viewing. I decided I wanted to partner my night with a little Glory Days Grill. We got the Guinness thigh wings. Got I love the grilled onion and blue cheeseburger. It's a win and a half. GloryDaysGrill.com is the website. And again, go try the Reuben, the Rachel, the shepherd's pie with the Guinness braised beef. But you have only until tomorrow to take advantage of the St. Patrick's menu. All right, would you rather number one, the Ravens indeed add Bobby Wagner, and that's how they wrap up free agency, or they add Odell Beckham and J.C. Treader?
I'll take the Beckham one.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
We need somebody to throw the ball to.
I mean, so are you down on Rashad Bateman? Are you down on
No. We need more people. More. Give us more pass catchers.
That's interesting. All right, that's interesting. I will listen to that. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay.
Number 2, would you rather? There's a Freaky Friday-like situation, and you switch bodies and lives moving forward. So none of the past, but everything from this day forward for the next 10 years until it can be fixed. You have to switch with Will Smith or with Chris Rock for the next 10 years.
Man, that was so insane.
I don't know. What happened? What are you talking about?
It was so crazy.
What? Wait, the grown-ups too? I mean, it kind of sucked if you ask me. But
I don't even know the answer to this. I mean, I'm going to say this is a dumb question. Neither.
Oh, no.
Terrible.
No, this is the game, Drew. You have to answer one or the other.
I'll be Will Smith.
Okay, why?
I'll parlay this into something. I don't know what yet.
Okay.
But I will. I'll get an endorsement deal somehow.
You'll do a big sit down with Barbara Walters and
something.
Is Barbara Walters?
Well, that's
a good question. Is Barbara Walters still alive?
No,
yes.
She's been dead 15 years.
I think she's still alive.
She has not been dead for 15 years.
I think she's still alive. I think you're wrong about this. I think I might have just trapped you. Hang on a second. Barbara
Walters has been dead since like 2005.
Barbara
she's
Walters
still alive.
is
she's 92.
very much alive. I don't think she's going to do any.
Her career's been dead.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to do any interviews.
Well, that's what I meant.
Barbara Walters is still with us.
Okay, good for her.
At the age of 92.
Keep on fighting.
And number 3, would you rather the Orioles change their mind, surprise everyone, and say, nope, we're putting DL Hall in our opening day rotation? Or, no, as much as that might give us a little bit of excitement, it's still a bad idea?
Oh, you know what I'm going to say to that. bring them all up and let them play. I mean, bring them all up. Give them some experience. Let them go to Fenway and Yankee Stadium, and the quicker you get that started, the better. Bring them up.
All right. Hey,
Bring them all up.
I mean, what could go wrong? It worked out really well for Hayden Penn, obviously. It worked out tremendously well with Adam Lowen.
Come October, you'll be singing a different tune, buddy.
I'll see.
When I'm at the ballpark and you're texting me going, how'd you get those seats?
What are you doing at the ballpark?
What are you doing at the ballpark? It's April 16th, and I'm going to say I'm watching playoff baseball. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, well, you're going. I see. I understand now. You're going to New York. It makes more sense.
I'm going to Baltimore.
At It's a Hooded 4-Iron on Twitter is how you follow him. DrewsMorningDish.com. And what? It's Fairways and Greens.
Fairways and Greens, yes, sir.
Fairways and Greens starting April 10th at noon. Please listen, but especially be listening as the show ends and then the next show that comes on after that. All right, buddy. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys soon.
See you, pal. Drew Forrester, DrewsMorningDish.com, checking in with us here on GCR. All right, would you rather, number one, would you rather Bobby Wagner or Odell Beckham and J.C. Tretter?
Didn't Odell just tear his ACL in the Super Bowl?
He did.
Yeah, Bobby Wagner. I like the Ravens pass catchers. I want to see them get Duvernay and Prochet more involved. B, he just tore his ACL. C, I think that they have in-house candidates can do just as good a job as J.C. Tretter at this point. So give me
I want to make sure we got the injury right just before I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure that we actually got the – because I know it was a knee injury. I'm not sure with certainty.
I think they said it was –
They originally said it was a torn ACL. Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with just sticking with torn ACL.
Yeah, he might not be ready till November, December at the earliest. This happened in mid-February.
I'm going to push back on that. That's not just not the timeline anymore. Like
it's about 9 months, right?
It had been, but we're just seeing guys who are pushing that.
Yeah.
Who are
pushing that, but that doesn't mean he's 100%.
I understand that. But some of that doesn't matter. Some of that doesn't.
For me, it's Bobby Wagner. You got to get this defense back to an elite level. It's Bobby Wagner.
All right. The kind of all over the place. Cy, Odell, and JC. I don't really care that much about Tretter, but I really want Odell. KZ, I think I would take Wagner. Tretter would be nice, but there's something else going on there. Odell just stunts growth from the wide receivers and is hurt. I know a lot of people have brought up the why is J.C. Tretter not signed? What do we not know? I don't think it's impossible that he's being blackballed. I don't think that's impossible at all. We all know that J.C. Tretter was quite vocal around the last CBA as the leader of the players union, and we saw this with Dominique Foxworth once upon a time, who again I get had been dealing with injuries, but that there's a smaller number of teams, or there's an amount of collusion that ends up being involved where you say, nah, we don't want you. We want a center. We don't want you. And I don't know that, and I'm not telling you that's what's going on, but I think dismissing it spits in the face of what we've frankly known to be true over the years about the guys who are the most upfront in negotiations during a CBA. I hope it's not the case. It certainly makes me question if it's not what it would be, but I don't know of anything that would scare me off of J.C. Tretter. Again, I have no problem with talking about the Odell Beckham side of things or just wanting Bobby Wagner more. But that to me is too realistic for me to be dismissive of it. From Lech, Wagner easily. Plus, I take Harbaugh's word for it when he says he doesn't see us signing a center. The middle of our defense needs stability and leadership. From Paul in Ovilando, I'll take Wagner. I think his presence in the middle of the defense would have a bigger impact on the team than the other two, especially with McCary an option at center. From Proctor, I'll take Tretter for the O-line help. OBJ looked pretty good at the end of the season, so it would give us a strong receiving core. Wagner was tempting. And from Dave says, despite Beckham's injury, I still think that adding one more pass catcher and maybe even somebody that would benefit from the fact that he wasn't out there at the beginning of the season and has less wear and tear as the year goes on. We saw how good he was in the postseason. Maybe someone who sits out a while to start the season would be even fresher for a postseason run. I think Beckham could be a game changer. Okay, I'll listen to that. Number 2, Freaky Friday. What was the Ryan Reynolds, Jason Bateman movie? What was that one?
The Change-Up.
The Change-Up, where they were peeing into the fountain at the same time. And That apparently made them switch. We're doing the Freaky Friday change-up situation. You're now Will Smith or you're now Chris Rock for the next 10 years.
But you said nothing about their...
You do not get to go back and live, like they still, everything that happened to them still happened.
Okay, so you still
But
have all the money and the fame.
A lot of times when we do these things, I say, would you rather switch places? Like somebody's like, well, then I get to have experienced the phenomenon that was. No, your soul did not experience any of that. You will not know what it was like to have been Chris Rock at the height of his career, Will Smith at the height of his career. You will not know those things. You only know moving forward, living as that person.
I'm going to choose Chris Rock.
Okay.
I think Will Smith, just the last year of his life, I feel like it doesn't look good for him.
You have harped on like the fact that Jada Pinkett had sex with another individual again, reminding.
Yes, but not just that.
He
but then
too.
Yeah, but then he had to sit. I mean, the man was crying on national TV. He had to sit there and listen to his wife explain why he failed her so much that she had to go sleep with that Augustine guy. Right? His kids are super weird. And Chris Rock.
Well, I don't know what Chris Rock's kids are like.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you.
I don't know if he has
kids. I do. And I famously remember him doing The Daily Show once, and Jon Stewart asking about his kids, and he being like, I don't understand them at all. They're rich. We got nothing in common. I was like, that's a pretty good line. That's a pretty good line.
Chris Rock is Chris Rock. I mean, he's not as funny as he used to be, but he still gets.
He certainly wasn't on Sunday night.
Still gets to live with all of his money, and he gets to be known as a guy who took a hit to the face from Will Smith. So
I'm not really sure how much that helps.
He's Will Smith.
I am struggling, and this is why I did it
hard.
this way. I am struggling with this one, and we are getting a fair amount both ways. KZ says Chris Rock seems like less baggage.
That's exactly my point.
Okay,
yeah.
I hear you. Paul and Ovilando, I'll take Will Smith. I don't feel like hanging out with Adam Sandler and the other over-the-hill comedians on the set of the inevitable Grown Ups 3 and Grown Ups 4 sequels that will be straight to Netflix.
There's nothing wrong with straight to Netflix.
That part I agree with. There's a lot wrong with Grown Ups 3 and Grown Ups 4 because there was a ton. You just know at some point there's going to be, hey, we'll give you a couple bucks. You want to come do it? Yeah, all right, fine. We'll come do it. You just know that's going to end up. I agree with that. Cordell, my buddy Cordell Woodland from 105.7. Give me Chris. He's going on tour, so at least I'd be able to make endless jokes about Will Smith now. I got a funny feeling. You're going to be disappointed by that he doesn't really want to drag this out any longer. Yeah. Like, he might talk about it once and then maybe do a special, talk about it, and then I think he's going to want this to go away at some point. I think all parties involved aren't really going to want this to be, because there is still the side of it where, like, he did make fun of someone who was going through a health issue. And while we can all say, hey, look, it was tame, it wasn't that big of a deal, and we all know Will Smith overreacted to it. Like, whatever you feel, defending your wife, you can't slap somebody on, like, you just can't do that. There is still a Chris Rock side of it, and I just don't think he's going to want to keep living that for a long time.
You may be right.
I think you're going to be disappointed. Like, a lot of people are buying, like, we've seen, like, the secondary market tickets for his tour are blowing up, and I think you're going to end up being a little bit disappointed. I'm not saying he won't reference it. I'm not saying it won't, but I think you're going to be disappointed by what you're going to end up getting out of it, because I don't think he really wants – Chris Rock is an A-level celebrity that wants to make sure he's invited to all of the big parties and wants to make sure he can get that Grown Ups 3 money and all of those things. I don't think he wants to cause that many ripples. It's part of the reason why, frankly, I don't think he's quite as funny any longer, is because it's important to him to be famous. And I get it. Hey, man, I ain't knocking anybody. If I was making a boatload of money, I'd probably want to protect that too. Yep. I just have a funny feeling that we're going to end up being a bit disappointed by what we get from that. Proctor, give me Chris Rock. He's not married, although Carmen Jogo is lovely. I guess that's his partner. And a comedy legend. Will had to go from laughing at a low-hanging joke to physical assault on a look from his wife. I'll pass.
Yeah, that's another point of it.
From Derek. Derek says, Glenn, we're overthinking this. At the end of the day, that's still Will Smith. He is still one of the biggest Hollywood stars of all time, and his body count is still quite impressive. I'm going to take that moving forward. People will forget about that. But is there any reason for us to think it's changing?
Yeah.
I mean, like, is there any reason for us to think that they're no longer doing those things within their relationship? Do we have any reason to believe that?
At some point, age catches up with you.
Does Will Smith look like somebody who age is caught up to? Does Jada look like somebody that age is caught up to?
Yeah.
Man, have you seen them? They look like they're in their young 30s.
Okay.
They do. They look great.
She looks better than he does.
I don't know, bro. I mean, like, he didn't look great in King Richard because he was playing Richard Williams, but he looks.
But Will
he looks
Smith
like Will
is-
Smith.
Will Smith is kind of going that Chris Tucker route where you can kind of tell that he's.
I don't think Will Smith is struggling in the department of. He's Will Smith.
He's
bro.
still a good-looking guy,
and
I'm not
he's
taking that
still
away.
Will Smith.
Yeah,
I don't think he's having any problem whatsoever. If they're still doing that, I don't think Will Smith has any issue whatsoever.
Probably not.
And we are to understand Margot Robbie.
Yeah, but that was like 10 years ago.
If that's where you are, 10 years removed from Margot Robbie is pretty freaking good, my friend.
Yeah. I don't know that he's pulling Margot Robbie now.
I'm not again, I'm trying to be very careful about this. I don't want to treat women as objects or anything along those lines. God, all right, let me clean this up a little bit. I just think he's doing fine. I think he's doing fine.
Probably.
I think, and by the way, I think Jada would do fine as well. She's gorgeous. I think they're both doing quite fine in whatever department it is they're trying to work on. And quickly, number 3, DL Hall.
I know that for me the caveat is health. Because honestly, I think he's a big league pitcher right now, and I think the only reason that he was reassigned and being held back at spring training is because he only threw 30 innings.
Answer the question. Answer the question.
Give me DL Hall now. I think he can get big league hitters out right now.
Okay. I probably line back up with no. That you need to take your medicine a little bit and make sure he's ready. I probably go back to that and like I've said before, if somebody is really shelled by bad outings when they get caught up, then it might be that mentally they're never going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that there's a process, and you need to go through the process, and you need to be prepared for it, and there's just not a lot to be gained from it. I don't think DL Hall's arrival changes. Again, if the Orioles were good, different conversation.
I look at a tweet that he put out a couple of weeks ago where he said, "I'm going to be one of the greatest to ever do it." And I think his confidence is through the roof. I think he can get big league hitters out today.
He might be able to, but I just don't know what you're gaining. I don't know what you're gaining.
Well, it's evaluation. It's knowing what holes you need to fill next year, because next year I think they will spend in the offseason.
Well, I hope you're right. I don't think I know that. All right, continue. Get me your responses for Would You Rather Wednesday, brought to you by Glory Days Grill. We will share them as the day goes on. The Baltimore Police Department are looking for a few folks. You know, a lot of you say things, but are you ready to step up? Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. We'll come back in. Our buddy Greg Rosenthal, NFL.com, NFL Network, and Courts of Thunder joins us next. Glenn Clark Radio. Sports fans, the wait is over. The all-new FanDuel Sportsbook is now open at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover, Maryland. This is your chance to win big right in your own backyard. Bet on every sport with self-service kiosks and watch all of the action from the best seat in the house. Make every moment more at the all-new FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
The newest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, we celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland men's basketball's 2002 NCAA Tournament Championship, as Gary Williams reflects on how the program rose from the ashes of NCAA sanctions to the pinnacle of the sport, and why his perspective of the title run has changed now 2 decades later. Plus, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter, and the rest of the team relive the moments that ultimately led them to cutting down the nets in Atlanta. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a wide range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Toyota to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything, don't forget that you can find whole shows later on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon Podcasts. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
If you were hoping that Arden Key was going to be part of the solution for the Baltimore Ravens, that will not be the case. He is headed to Jacksonville instead. Of course, one of the players the Ravens have brought in for a visit in the sort of second phase of free agency, but he will not become a Baltimore Raven. It is a Wednesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Of course, you know how much I love our next guest, one of my buddies. We spend most nights during tennis tournaments texting back and forth with each other, and we do a little podcast. You might have heard of it. It's called Courts of Thunder. It's only one of the biggest podcasts in all of the Dominican Republic and Serbia. Don't know if you're aware. And I hear he's on some other show around. I don't remember what it's called. It's not as big. It's not as important. But he's Greg Rosenthal, and he's with us now here on GCR. What's going on, pal? How are you?
I'm good. We will bludgeon your listeners into caring a little bit about tennis.
We will.
Eventually.
We will break it down. We will continue to work our way through it. But there's a reason why we both do a separate tennis podcast instead of continuing to try to force our way through in our own areas. We'll get to. I want to talk about Miami. I want to talk about Nick Kyrgios. There's things I want to discuss. But you disagreed with something that I said on Twitter yesterday. So let's talk about it.
Please. I mean, this is a Lamar Jackson town, a Lamar Jackson show. I feel like that's more important than the Miami Open.
1,000%. That's the way we do things around here. My point, right, related to Lamar Jackson is we can keep bending and twisting. And at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson has every right to do whatever he wants to do. Whatever he wants to do in this process, he can do it. And we can keep trying to bend and twist, but ultimately we can't make this make sense. There is, at the end of this, he is trading off guaranteed money. And we can say, hey, he could be chasing more money, and he could have gotten But the other side of it nobody wants to talk about is that Deshaun Watson just got another contract that he did not need. And quarterbacks can do this forever. The thing where we keep saying, well, if you sign too early, somebody else might get more money. Well, we now know all of these quarterbacks can hold their teams hostage. And they can go back and say, hey, I signed for 45, but the market has blown up. Joe Burrow just got 70. You got to get me there or else you're going to have to trade me. I'm out on the idea that it makes sense to keep waiting because you can always do another deal wherever the market ends up going if you continue to be that caliber of quarterback.
Look at you already arguing, my point before I even try to make it. That's clever. That's why it's your show. Your host. I hear all that. Obviously, Lamar Jackson can make a ridiculous amount of money that will, change his life and his family's life forever. Now, at any point, that's the security. That's why so many quarterbacks have taken these deals. That's why in almost any situation, if he was my brother or friend, I'd probably say, yeah, do that. Take that money now. Take the security. I just wonder if the goal is different for him. If his goal is to maximize the amount of money that quarterbacks can make in the NFL and have the most amount of power and really reset and try to, in a way, get the closest thing to a fair value for a quarterback in a salary cap system, I think the only route to do it is the Kirk Cousins route. And Kirk Cousins has made more money than basically every quarterback in the league because he got franchise tagged twice, then he got to free agency. And that's Kirk Cousins. I think if Lamar Jackson wants to, make billions, as he said with a B, or essentially change the league in the way that they have to handle quarterbacks, the only way anyone's ever going to get that done is to be a top-shelf quarterback that gets to free agency in his prime. That is taking on an incredible amount of risk, but if he actually did it and he had, let's say, a Hall of Fame career, he would be the most powerful player in NFL history. Because I would argue Kirk Cousins on a contractual basis has been close to it, and that's Kirk Cousins. So I think that's the idea, at least maybe from Lamar Jackson's side.
So let me retort by saying every quarterback is a free agent. Then we're seeing that. Like, every quarterback has the power, and whether they choose to usurp it or not, the only thing that happens is this year specifically, because you can say once he gets into the tag years, he would be making the top dollar, but this year specifically, he would be losing money in the process by doing that instead of agreeing to a long-term deal with huge guarantees. This year, that 5th year of his original deal is lesser money than what he could be making. So you're trading that off to say, hey, but you can go get the free agency and you could really break the bank. But the truth is, everyone's a free agent. But Deshaun Watson proved that he had a contract.
Right, I get it, but I still think it's different. If you get out there on your own and you're getting to choose the teams, not only can you choose the teams, but you can choose the terms of the contract. Like, Kirk Cousins has had so much power since he signed that one free agency deal, where he's been able to keep adding on these extra years every way. Like, he and his agent have sort of controlled the process in a way that other quarterbacks don't. And you can say, yeah, you can be a jerk or a creep like Deshaun Watson, or you can be a pain in the ass that your teammates get sick of like Aaron Rodgers, or you can try to handle it like the most honest way possible, which would maybe be the Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins route. Like, he's not doing anything negative towards the team. He's handling it, I think, like a pro, and he's trying to like maximize what he can do. And this is all speculation. We don't even know for sure if this is what he's trying to do. It's just what makes sense.
Greg, I think that what I would push back on is the idea that this would make you a jerk or make you. I don't think there's anybody in the locker room that doesn't understand you constantly trying to get as much money as you possibly can. I mean, I've never had a player that has pushed back on that ever. That everybody understands you make as much money as you can possibly make, and you have the leverage. You always have the leverage because there aren't 32 high-level quarterbacks.
I disagree. I don't think Aaron Rodgers or even Tom Brady or even Drew Brees have really had the total amount of leverage that they could, because take away the salary, like include the salary cap. If they weren't a salary cap, I don't think fans don't like to hear this, but quarterbacks are extremely underpaid. Like
100%.
What are they actually? In a
they're really worth at least 51% of your salary cap, because if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance.
Not only that, imagine if there wasn't a salary cap, like the rest of the
$500 million. I mean, it'd be insane.
Owners are, they would be making like the soccer player money, over $100 million a year. Who even knows?
Right.
I think the only way that they actually would have full leverage is to get to what Cousins did. And I think Cousins is a great example, because no one's ever believed Cousins was a top 10 quarterback. And look at what he's done. You know what I mean? And people are like,
but that required
he's the finesse king, and that happened in a lucky way. It
right.
wasn't intentional. But what if it was intentional? And what if it was a great quarterback doing that? I think if for someone with eyes on the bigger market and just sort of idea of an impact you could make, almost like LeBron James made an impact of when he started just choosing the teams, whether that's positive or negative. Maybe that's what Lamar's thinking.
But by the way, I'm completely on. We're talking to Greg Rosenthal, NFL Network, NFL.com, around the NFL. What you just said to me is my argument, right? My argument is you've already got that. You don't have to take less money. You don't have to make any sacrifices in order to get there. You have the ability to be LeBron James. And every one of these quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson really has changed the game. He did not need a contract. They gave him a fully guaranteed contract anyway because what he realized, and he got it with the team, that he got what he wanted in the process. He had choices. He was able to pick where he wanted to be because every single one of these guys has every ounce of leverage. Deshaun Watson's a creep, but I don't think it's because of this. It's because of the other things we know about Deshaun Watson. Every single one of these guys has the ability to say, you have to have me. If you're not willing to pay me that number and then the same number wherever it goes the following year, you got to move me to the team that does. And what that does is it breaks everything down. And we all of a sudden realize all these guys are NBA players. And every year they're really doing one-year deals. They always keep their guarantees, but they're always doing one-year deals to maximize what they're worth. And as soon as people realize that's what Deshaun Watson did, then 6 more guys do that. And it's not a creep thing. It's just the way the business works. That's the standard now. Is we all understand you have the leverage, you have the power. Use your power. Don't sit around and wait for it. You've got it now. Why are you waiting to extort somebody if you're going to extort them 3 years down the road?
No one's trying to extort anything. I don't think it's like that. I hear what you're saying, and you're right, but I still struggle to see a situation where Steve Bisciotti and Eric DaCosta are across the negotiating table from Lamar Jackson, and that he has as much leverage as you think. I just think for a player to actually change you said Deshaun Watson changed the game. He did in a sense, but he'll probably never get to free agency. And Lamar Jackson, if he wanted to go that route, and yes, you're taking some risks, but I think if you're Lamar Jackson, you look at the $20 million you're making this year, 19, and you think that's quintuple what I've made in my career. That's going to change my life forever. That's enough. And the only way to get a contract that is close to what he's actually worth would be getting to free agency, because you're saying they're already doing it now. Like, what if Lamar Jackson was a free agent right now? What do you think he might make? I don't know. He might make $70 million a year.
It starts at Deshaun Watson's number. I know that much. It starts at a full and
I think it goes a lot higher.
I don't disagree.
I think what you're underrating is the difference between freely available to all the teams and still negotiating this in a situation where it's either a trade or you're just going against different. I don't know. Like Aaron Rodgers is a free agent right now. I feel like he could have gotten $65, $70 million for a 1 or 2 year guarantees of that. I don't know, and I think that's what Lamar maybe is looking at, and maybe he's just looking at freedom. He wants to see what the situation will be like. It still won't be for 3 years at least, which is the part as someone like if he was my friend or a family member, it's a long couple of years. And an injury doesn't change everything, but his play could if he doesn't, stay at the highest level, if he has more seasons like 2021.
To me, the proof you've already got everything you're saying. I completely understand. I just think that we're putting too much into the concept of free agent. There's still only so many teams that are going to be in the market whenever you get the free agency. There's
not for a top quarterback. I don't think we're putting too much on that, just because I don't think we've seen it, and so how can we even know? The only time lately we've seen it is Kirk Cousins. Oh, and Tom Brady, by the way. Hey, good job, NFL. He was a free agent, and no one offered him more than $25 million a year.
Yeah.
At least the Chargers tried. I'll give them a little bit of
But that's sort of my point. You still like a team that already has Joe Burrow isn't going for Lamar Jackson in 3 years when he gets to free agency, right?
Sure.
Like,
but there will be 7 as long as there's going to be more going for him than we're going for Deshaun Watson, even, like, if you're freely available.
I don't disagree with that. Like, there were teams that were just never going to do it with Deshaun Watson. I don't disagree with that at all. But right now, if Lamar Jackson is really available, let's say the Seahawks have decided we're moving on to get another quarterback, but if all of a sudden Lamar Jackson's on the table, are they definitely deciding that? Or are they maybe reconsidering their thought process in relation to what it is they're doing at the quarterback position with Lamar Jackson being on the table?
You mentioned the NBA. I do think it could be something where if he did play this out, and man, it's going to – I find this story fascinating, but I'll probably find it less fascinating when we're still talking about it in 2 years.
Right.
It could be something like the NBA where guys like James Harden, or maybe that's the wrong example, but like when they're coming up for free agency, like LeBron, that teams are positioning themselves for that person up to 2 years in advance for it. Like, okay, that's the year he's going to be free. We kind of know that, and that's a part of their thinking.
Maybe, but I'd also say that even those players have forced their way out here earlier, right? Like, you're positioning yourself for James Harden or whoever it is, and they don't like where they are. They say, you got to move me. I've got the power. I just think that we are really downplaying exactly how much leverage quarterbacks have. I think we're missing that. And I think that, to me, is the absolute story of the Deshaun Watson thing, is the quarterbacks have all of it. And Steve Bisciotti saying yesterday, if you don't have a quarterback, your life sucks, is one of the most honest things I think I've heard from him in years, right? Like, you have to have a quarterback. Whatever the
number. Is that a shot at Joe Flacco, or what was
that? No, I don't even think it was. I think it was more about the idea. I think there's been this thing that's been presented. I'm sure you've heard this. There's this stupid number that's being tossed around by people that no team has ever won a Super Bowl paying 15% of their salary cap to one quarterback, right? And there's this immediate caveat, which is, yeah, but the Rams spent even more than that on the quarterback position because they were still playing, Jared Goff money on the cap a year ago. So
stupid. People were super into that stat, and then it's like, Tom Brady just won and Matthew Stafford just
right.
Won. Just shut up about that. If you guys could look at like the winning teams and the waste that every even Super Bowl winning team has on their roster, how about just like don't waste $25 million on a defensive end that gets injured right away or on dead cap?
100%. There's
people
plenty
get
of
so
spaces.
worked up about the quarterback when the quarterbacks, even the best ones, are only like worth twice of like a Yannick Ngakoue. And it's like, which would you rather have?
I got the sense that what he was referring to was the idea that there are people that genuinely believe that you have to bust the quarterback system and you just have to draft one, play him for 5 years, move on, right? Like, go trade him, get your next quarterback. And I think that's what he was responding to, was the idea of the just moving on and never paying a quarterback this amount of dollars because it makes life too difficult. Life is too difficult when you don't have a quarterback. That's when life is too difficult. The difficult part isn't paying your quarterback. It's when life gets too difficult. I think the quarterbacks are realizing they have all of the power. It's all with them. They can do whatever they want. There is always a bad team that desperately needs a quarterback that can be used as leverage with your own team. You don't want to do this? What's weird? They don't have a quarterback in Washington. You want to talk more about this and figure out exactly how far they're willing to go? You don't want to pay me that number? I just don't know why anyone would choose not to use the power that very clearly exists. That's the part that and trading off money in the short term.
I guess my thing for Ravens fans is like, don't sweat it. Like this, like he's happy to be there. He
yeah, I know. He tweeted that today, right?
I would have no doubt. There's nothing he's said, done, acted. Like, you've got a great leader, a great quarterback. He's not going anywhere for the next few years. I also wouldn't stress it. Maybe he really will try to play this out and do the Cousins thing, and I think that would be a fascinating experiment by him and to watch. But even if he does do that, that's 3 years away. Like that's a long time, and like a lot's going to happen between now and then, including a chance for the Ravens to just get the thing done.
And what I would say is, if that really is what they're doing, if that really is an obsession with, I got to go the 7-year route, I've got to go and get the free agency, I do think it forces the Ravens' hand at some point to say, do we have to think about trading him and what we could get in the process? And I think that's what kind of makes Ravens fans nervous a little bit.
Right. And even that's a couple years away. But again, it's kind of like baseball. Like, you have to wait till your 6th, your 7th year to get the free agency in baseball. And you keep saying, Glenn, how the quarterbacks have all the power. I don't see that. I don't see any in this system. It's impossible for the players to have all the power. And I do think
I agree with any other position.
An idea here to find out how much power a quarterback could truly have. I think you would have to go the Lamar, Kirk Cousins route if he did that.
But how is Watson But how is Deshaun Watson not the living proof of how much power that quarterbacks have?
Yeah, you got a lot.
He is someone that some teams would not touch, would not have anything to do with, and yet he got a fully guaranteed contract. Like that, that's everything you need to know about the quarterback position. That a guy that was a pariah could get a fully guaranteed deal in the NFL, which nobody can get.
They didn't see him as a pariah. They didn't care about that part. I mean, clearly.
But that, to me, that's everything you need to know about the quarterback's power, right? Like this guy, not Patrick Mahomes, not Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson.
just to play the other side, though, if I'm Lamar, I see that, and at least if you were of the idea you want to get the Greens, I think you could absolutely see that and say, well, just imagine if you didn't have all that stuff, if you didn't have
I agree.
needing to give up the 3 first-round picks, if you didn't have all the baggage that the Sean Watson, like, imagine what that would be. And it's also not just that first contract. It's really once you get there, the rest of your career, the next 10 years, I think you're able to control it in a way that just no other NFL quarterbacks really ever have. So I'd be curious to see it, even if it caused a lot of Ravens fans to, need a lot of antacid over the next few years.
Is Nick Kyrgios ever going to be a threat to win something? Like, the last couple of weeks I said to myself, man, he's playing well. He's beating real dudes. Maybe he's turned a corner. Maybe winning matters to him. Maybe he wants to, and then womp womp. Is it ever going to happen? Is he ever going to be a threat to win something?
A threat to win something? Yeah, I think he can make some semis and he could get there, but he's not going to be. He'll never be high on the list to make it through 2 weeks playing best out of three out of 5 sets to win a Grand Slam. I think these events that we love so much, Indian Wells and Miami back-to-back, is probably my favorite 2 tournaments of the year other than the 4 Grand Slams, is his best chance to win. And even here, sort of at his best, he ultimately goes down in a close match to Nadal, and then to Sinner he loses his mind, and that's sort of what he is. I think he's a supporting character, but there's just so many other guys that are great players, as good or better than him as a player, and have their heads together, that don't lose their minds.
That's a shame, man. It's a real shame because it would be great for tennis if he could just have a stretch where it's just the talent and none of the other stuff, Like, it would just be so good for the sport.
Well, he just did for a month. I mean, he's also winning lots of doubles matches.
Sure, right.
Can he keep that going for a year and finish in the top 20 or something? Like, that would be the first step. He does take up a lot of oxygen, and it's almost I've been a fan, but it's also annoying.
Oh, it's too much. It's too much. But I want to buy into it. I want to believe in it for a second, and I'm like, nope. It's the same old story. But it's been a good.
Right. Here's the thing. Your boy Yannick Sinner, which no one in America knows who that man is.
Yes, correct.
Ultimately, he's a younger, better version of Nick Kyrgios without the mental stuff. So it's I'll bet on that guy. He's not as exciting. He's not going to maybe it's not as flashy, but at this point, he's already as good, if not a better player.
Well, none of them are as good as Carlos Alcaraz, who's going to be he's going to win a bunch of these things. He's going to win a ton of them. And that's a confident bet from me that if he stays healthy, this kid is going to be special for the next decade, man. It's a name that if you're not familiar with, I would encourage you to get familiar with, and we will definitely be talking about him next week on Courts of Thunder, as he might very well be the Miami champion.
I'm with you. If there's one thing that Glenn and I have ever said about tennis that anyone should listen as a tip, is that Carlos Alcaraz is the best young player I've ever seen. In terms of when I've really been a hardcore super fan, which is the last decade. He's clearly the best young player of the last decade. To me, it's not even question.
All of these guys that we've talked about, and even Daniil Medvedev, who's already gotten there, right? He's already proven it. He's already legit. This guy's even better than that. This guy is the best young player. And boy, I've been a hardcore fan for 25. I've never seen anything like this kid. It's
Rafael Nadal was pretty good when he was young.
Sure, that's fair. I think we can go back. That's fine. That's our standard.
But it might be going back that far.
And I'm not telling you that he's going to win 20 Grand Slams, right? I'm not saying that. But he's going to win a bunch. He's going to win a slew of them. All right, buddy. What's your guys' schedule? What are you doing these days?
We're still cranking out Around the NFL podcast, and then we got the broadcast on Fridays as well. So it's a nice time of year. It's finally quieting down a little bit. Feels like the season is just ending now. So I'm thankful for that.
At Greg Rosenthal with 2 G's on Twitter. That's how you follow him. Love you, pal. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
See you, Glenn.
It's Greg Rosenthal checking in with us here on GCR. Today's show also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy Football. If you're not playing Underdog, I think you're a crazy person. You can't bet on your phone or on your computer yet in the state of Maryland, but you can play Underdog and feel like you're betting. Player props, parlays, daily, weekly, traditional fantasy contests. They're available. No, you can't just straight bet a game. That's not allowed yet. But you can do things that make you feel like you're betting with Underdog Fantasy Football. Download the Underdog app. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you use the code PRESSBOX, make your first deposit up to $100. We'll match it with free money for you to play with. Again, UnderdogFantasy.com. The relevant part about what Greg is saying is, okay, but if you try to force your way out, somebody still has to be willing to pay a significant price for you. And there's a trade-off in that, right? Like, are we really going to pay someone 3 first-round picks and then pay the player this historic amount of money in order to get him? And my answer is yes. Yes, you are. And the Browns to me are that example. I think it's a culture shock thing because we're used to the idea of a player forcing their way out as being a bad thing. But I'm not a believer in that. One, I don't think you're really trying to force your way out. I believe Lamar Jackson. I believe Lamar Jackson wants to be in Baltimore. But there's a number for that. There's got to be a number for that. It's not just, well, whatever you want to pay me. It's, I want to be in Baltimore because you're going to pay me the exponential price that it costs to have a quarterback. At some point, you got to do it. And to say, well, I'm going to present it as though the 7th year is the best time to do that. What happens when the draft 2 years from now happens to be the greatest quarterback draft in the history of football? And instead of there being 8 teams that need quarterbacks, there's really only like 2 or 3. A couple years ago, we were in that place where there were only a couple of teams that really desperately needed quarterbacks. The majority of teams had them. And I get Greg's point back is, well, yeah, but you might have a quarterback, but if you got a shot at Lamar Jackson, the Browns technically had a quarterback, right? And they could do better. But there's 10 teams that are in that boat right now. You're banking that the year you're available is the year where there's the best quarterback market to you? Maybe. Maybe that's the case. But there's no reason you can't cash in now and then. You just have to be willing to use your leverage. The only thing you're doing in the process is giving up money. This year, you can make more money. And you can make more money 3 years down the road. Both things can be done. You just have to play the game. Well, you don't really want to do that. You don't really want to make yourself unliked within your community. I'm going to be honest with you. If the Ravens aren't willing to pay Lamar Jackson what it costs to get a quarterback at this point, I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be the guy that's unliked in the community. I think we know where the heat's going to be. This is the market for a quarterback. You're not willing to pay it? Who's going to be the one that's unliked?
Oh, without question.
You got to be willing to play the game. And that's the part. Now, he doesn't have to. But I just cannot get to the place where you're somehow better off doing the other thing. You can't paint that picture to me. Both things can happen. You can both get the money now and get the money again 3 years down the road. Quarterbacks have all of the leverage. And no one has proven it more than Deshaun Watson has. They've got all of it. You think the Falcons want to play Marcus Mariota as their quarterback next season?
Not a chance in hell.
0. We know that because they put a full court press on for Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. They realized, you really want to have Deshaun Watson? This is what it costs you. Okay, now Lamar Jackson's available. This is the leverage you have. You just have to be willing to use it. If Lamar Jackson doesn't want to, that's fine. He doesn't. Nobody's forcing him to do that. I just can't pretend like it's better for him to do something else. It's not. The thing that was portrayed to me by a couple of people is that maybe he believes he's doing something bigger for the a union as a whole by trying to bust down the franchise tag system. by just saying, I love you, but I'm not doing anything because I'm making a statement about the franchise tag being unfair to players. So I refuse to let you have that as leverage over me. I'm going to do it this way because I'm making a bigger statement for the Players Association. Well, are you saying you definitely never sign with the Ravens then because of it? Like, if all you do is wait a couple more years and end up signing with the Ravens anyway, what statement did you make? I don't think that the franchise tag system is fair to players. I think it's bad for players. I get that there's got to be a give and take. What the league would say is, hey, we want players to stay entrenched in communities because it creates more long-term relationships. It makes kids more willing to buy jerseys if they don't have to worry about, like in the NBA, players constantly moving. It's better for the overall health of the league that guys are drafted somewhere, particularly the quarterbacks, because it's a quarterback league, and stay there for a while. It's why we want to continue to fight for the franchise tag system, is because it gives the best chance for children to fall in love with someone in their town, make them football fans, have them stay football fans long term. And that would be right. Is it fair for the players? Not necessarily. Is it something that you should be willing to give on for the better ultimate health of the league as a whole? I don't know the equation on that. I haven't done the full math on that.
Well, and the franchise tag, doesn't it just hurt the franchise in the long run anyway, because it's taking away – all that money's guaranteed.
For the year, yes. For a one-year scenario, it's not ideal. But the idea is it buys you more time in order to get something done. Right? The concept always ends up being, it's so rare that you have a Kirk Cousins situation where a team uses the franchise tag knowing we're not going to pay you what market value is. Mm-hmm. We won't do that.
Yeah.
It's extraordinarily rare.
I look at the Ravens situation. If Lamar Jackson had been drafted in 2017 instead of 2018, we're looking at a $50 million franchise tag right now, and that completely cripples them from doing anything else.
And it goes back to if that's what you're willing to pay a quarterback, why wouldn't you just have a deal done at that number, right? Like, this is the insanity of the entire conversation.
Right.
So the idea that Lamar Jackson has to get to free agency because free agency is where he can maximize his value, we already know what Lamar Jackson's value is. I'm struggling for you to tell me how his value is changing. Well, your right answer, because the numbers are going up. He can do it again. Deshaun Watson just did it again. And he didn't play last year. And he might be suspended this season. And he just got another contract. You can do it again in 3 years. You can go back and say, the market has changed. You've got to meet me there. You don't have to wait and take less money in the process. You don't have to do that in order to maximize your value. You just have to recognize your value. Again, whatever Lamar Jackson wants to do is what he wants to do. We're all adults here. We don't kink shame. The whole thing. Whatever you want to do, do it. But others of us trying to say that this is what makes the most sense, no, it doesn't. Someone's got to step in and say, look around, man, smell the roses. You don't have to wait. The money is there. Somebody wants to make you the highest paid quarterback in football. The Saints want to do that. The Falcons want somebody that I used to know. Somebody wants to do that. You've got to play the game and say, if it's not you, send me to where they will. And if the Ravens say, all right, we changed our mind. We get it. We don't want to create a situation here. We'll go ahead and do it. Then 3 years down the road, if Joe Burrow's making $80 million a year, you go back to him and say, you know what's funny? Things have changed. I'm a franchise caliber quarterback still. The market has moved. Let's have this chat again. And it's no different than what it would be if you were going into free agency in 3 years. The teams that need quarterbacks still need quarterbacks. We can't make it make sense. And again, unless it's just something really unique unless it's the Steve Bisciotti thing. Dude just wants to win a Super Bowl. It's just who he is. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, that's the case. High five. It wouldn't be what I would do, but you have every right to do it. But we, from the outside, can't pretend as though it's a sensical answer. Only Lamar can handle that. And that's his business. That's his place. I ain't knocking him. He's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, $23 million is a good number for anybody.
Be fine with that. I mean, my God, I wanted people to know I'm willing to work for 2.3. Just wanted that to be out there. I'm willing to do it for a tenth of that number.
How Browns would it be to give up all that draft capital and all that money for Deshaun Watson? He doesn't play this year because he's suspended. He's 2 years removed from the last time he played, and he's not the same player. We saw what happened with Le'Veon Bell.
It would be extraordinarily Browns. There's no doubt about that. I am the whispers around the league is that the Browns are very confident that he's not getting suspended. Mm-hmm. Those are the whispers. Like the people say that they're not saying they know anything on the NFL side. What they say is that the Browns are acting as though they know. They know that is not something that is a concern to them. What that means, couldn't tell you. I have no clue. But, it maybe making the trade alone would be enough evidence of that, right? You don't make this trade if you are in terrible fear that Deshaun Watson is about to get hit with a lengthy suspension.
And I'm pretty sure that Roger Goodell and the owners are pretty tight, so maybe the Browns owner knows something that we're not privy to.
I mean, although I don't know if Jimmy Haslam is the one. He's brought a little bit of shame towards the NFL, given some of his business dealings. I'm not sure if he's the guy that would be the closest. But sure, I mean, like, Roger Goodell works for them. Let's make that abundantly clear. They're his boss. So undoubtedly, like, there would be some access to some information, although I don't think they would have better information than anybody else would have. I don't know what to make of that. All right, when we come back in, we're going to get a tidbit. We're going to get tubular. We're going to wind down for a Wednesday edition of the program. Hey, if you missed it yesterday, Stan the Fan caught up with Jackie McWilliams, the commissioner of the CIAA, sort of put the finishing touches on their first event here in Baltimore, started looking ahead to 2023 and a revitalized Baltimore Arena hosting the next CIAA tournament. You can find that right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports or PressBoxOnline.com/video to check it out there. It's GCR.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Answering Baltimore's calls for help, running in when others run away, working together toward one shared vision for a thriving city. That's your Baltimore Police. But the department needs more good people, people like you. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org.
Sports betting has come to Maryland, and we're ready to help you win some money. Tune in for Simply the Bets with Glenn Clark and Paul Valley every Tuesday morning at 11:40. FanDuel Sportsbook GM Bruce Billick and VSiN's Aaron Oster join the guys every week to give you all of the info you need and even a few winners. So come win some money with us on Simply the Bets every Tuesday at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. Watch at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline.
Glory Days Grill's St. Patrick's menu is now in full swing, and it's their most popular seasonal menu all year. New in 2022 are their smoky thigh wings with Guinness grilling sauce, a house-made Guinness barbecue sauce. Fan favorites also include their corned beef and cabbage, the shepherd's pie with Guinness braised ground beef, the Glory Days Reuben, and the Rachel. Enjoy a pint of Guinness or Guinness Baltimore Blonde. The St. Patrick's menu is available for the whole month of March. Come in for great food, cold beer, and basketball. Find out more about Glory Days Grill and get your order in online at glorydaysgrill.com.
Baseball is back. I'm Paul Valley.
And I'm Zach Goodman.
You can find us live every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon talking all things Orioles and Major League Baseball.
Like the debuts of Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez.
And how the rotation and bullpen are rounding into form. Watch us live at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
Or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio.
That's the Bat Around, live with the latest in baseball coverage every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
We can't imagine why you'd want to, but you can watch GCR live. It's at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And try to guess whether these guys are wearing any pants.
All right, we are winding down for a Wednesday edition of the... I keep forgetting what day it is as I start to say that. I don't know why I'm forgetting what day it is. I think if you guys knew how much had been going on behind the scenes in relation to the guest thing I talked about earlier, I think if you knew that, you might understand more of how difficult the week has been for everybody involved. Paul, I, Ryan Shell, there's been a lot going on. Just a lot happening for a guest that I don't think we're getting. I don't think I've ever put more work in, more back and forths. And we make a lot of, if you knew the number of phone calls we make for things that don't come through, it's staggering. You know, our hit rate is 10% of the things that we try for. But the amount of work that we put into this one, and no offense to you, Paul, because you do a lot of other things. This one, Ryan and I more so on this one. It's almost, it's like I've lost myself at times. Last night I realized, because I did the Spalding lacrosse game yesterday. They look so good, man. They are unbelievable. Mikey Wieshauer is legit as all. I have no idea how Towson managed to get him, man. That's incredible for them. I guess his brother goes there, and that's part of the story. That kid is legit. And Spalding's really good. They're a serious threat to win the A conference. But they had me over to call a game yesterday, and then I was like, oh, crap, I got a Stevenson game tomorrow. I got to prep that. And at some point I looked up, and I'm like, I haven't worked out today. What the? It's 11:30 at night. I haven't done a work. I got to go get on the bike. I got to, what? I have lost myself this week with so much going on. Again, for a guest I don't think we're going to get.
Yeah.
We were still holding out. We were leaving the possibility that he might call today at 11. Did not happen. So I guess I could give it away that it was a he. I guess I've given that much away. We'll see. And at some point before the week is over, I will tell you more about it. I will give you more information about what happened. Because I'm not trying to hide it from you. I'm just trying to make sure that we know definitively whether or not it's going to happen. And, as of the last email exchange, I did not know definitively whether or not it was going to happen. So it's really screwed me up this week, just sort of working on that, all the work that we put into it. If you have not picked up the new print issue of PressBox yet, I don't know what. Like Linkin Park and Jay-Z once said, what the hell are you waiting for? I know Jay-Z said it first, but then I really did dig. It's funny because I look back on it. I have had a Linkin Park epiphany that I'd be willing to do a full podcast about. Mm-hmm. We convinced ourselves they kicked ass.
We really did.
They did not kick ass. They were an emo band. And they were just an emo band that was doing electronic versions of emo. Mm-hmm. And somehow we convinced ourselves they were a rock band. They were really getting after it. Go back and listen to any Linkin Park song now in context. They were an emo band. Mm-hmm. Think about Numb, right? It's just a depressing song.
Yeah, a lot of their songs
It's all it is. It's just depressing. They're just, and it's very sad, obviously. Chester, of course, going through what he was going through, and I'm not trying to minimize that. But we really did believe that they were at the height of rock at that point in there. We did 98 Rock could not have played more Linkin Park music on the station that always played Metallica, right? And looking back on it now, I don't know why, but I went to the big Live 8 show in Philadelphia where Linkin Park and Jay-Z played together. And I went back and rewatched that recently, and I was like, it is not as kick-ass as I remember it being. I remember it being just the most amazing thing ever when it happened. It was just so cool, right? You're like, holy crap, it's the biggest rapper in the world, biggest rock band in the world. They're doing this thing. Mashups are cool. I'm all in. We went up to Philly. We saw them. It was incredible. Now I look at it back, and I'm like, What did I think was great about this?
You, and I'm not making light of anything here, but you listen to the lyrics of most of their songs, and how could you not see that was a guy that was going through some stuff?
Sure. I mean, but art, we try to separate art from, there are people that make art that have nothing to do with their actual life, right? It's just the art that they make, you know what I mean? So I certainly don't blame us for not seeing it, right? Because art is art.
Art often imitates life and vice versa.
100%, but this is the bit we do where we try to pretend like video games are the problem for why it is that we have gun problems in this country, right? Like people are completely capable of separating art from life. It can imitate life, but we like to do this where we say art is life, and it's not true. It's just not. There are people for whom art is just art. That's all it is.
I just find it difficult to believe that somebody could write lyrics like that and not have something going on.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people have things going on. You know what I mean? Like in the context that we knew that he was suicidal, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? I think that's a reach. But in general, my point being, it was emo. Like it was just a different presentation of emo music that we didn't recognize. Doesn't mean there aren't still Linkin Park songs that I love. Like, of course I still love some Linkin Park songs. But it's just amazing to me that we accepted them as like a rock and roll act. And the truth is they were far closer to like Dashboard Confessional. Like the actual music they made, it was just not it had more electric guitar, it had heavier guitar maybe, but it was Dashboard Confessional, babe. Like that's what it was. The moral of the story is, what the hell are you waiting for? Get to your neighborhood Royal Farms. There will be no more after this is gone. One last time, I need y'all. This is a Jay-Z song that I've given to Linkin Park just because they did a mashup of it. It's so funny that I'm doing this. Go pick it up. It's got Gary Williams on the cover. It's free at your neighborhood Royal Farms. We celebrate the 20th anniversary of Maryland's National Basketball Championship. What the hell happened to me?
Turned Press Box print edition into a Linkin Park.
I don't know what any of that was. All right, Tidbit brought to you today by Live Casino and Hotel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Again, Rodney Elliott and I will be there on Monday night for the title game. Looking forward to seeing you there. Hopefully it doesn't involve Duke, but I'm a little concerned about that. And if it does, we will root like hell against them, is how that will work on Monday. Come join us. Of course, any $50 or more bet on any NCAA tournament game with 3 left. If you're a Live Rewards member, you can register to win a $500 bracket bonus. Get signed up for Live Rewards. Join us Monday night in the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel for the title game.
All right, the talk of Baltimore and the talk of this show is Lamar Jackson, how he's playing his contract negotiations. It would make sense that the negotiations would start at Deshaun Watson's 5-year, fully guaranteed $230 million contract, considering Lamar has done more in the league than Watson, like winning an MVP and leading the league in touchdowns while compiling a 37-12 record compared to Watson's 28-25 record. Since 2019, when Lamar Jackson was voted just the second unanimous MVP in NFL history, Jackson has tallied 8 games with a quarterback rating over 133. Can you name those games? You don't have to give me dates. I know you're bad with dates.
Say that one more time.
Lamar Jackson has 8 games with a quarterback rating of 133.
Okay, so the Colts game last year.
That is correct.
Obviously, the Dolphins game, the starters, was that the second season?
Yes. So it was a 140.5 rating over the Colts last year, 158.3, a perfect rating over Miami on September 8th, 2019.
And that was the day we were like, what is this?
Hollywood's first game.
There have been so many questions about Lamar Jackson that offseason. We're like, did the Ravens make the right decision? And then the first game, it was just the most brilliant performance you'd ever seen. You were like, oh, this is a done different thing. The Rams game that year, the Monday Night Football game.
Yep, 45-6 win over the Rams, 139.4.
Lamar Jackson's highest. How many more? You said there's 8?
Yeah, there's 5 more games.
8, and the number was
133 or higher.
There were a couple other games I'm assuming in the MVP year. I'm gonna try the. Oh, God. One of those Bengals games. The game where he did the Houdini thing.
Yep. In the 49-13 win, he had a second perfect quarterback rating, 158.3 on November 10th, 2019. He's Houdini.
Yeah, I mean, that was... How about the... I don't think it was the Seahawks game, because I don't think they threw the ball enough in that game for him to have...
He didn't have a great completion percentage. He only had the 1 touchdown, too.
How about? I'm guessing there are other games that year, though.
There's two more games that year and two more games in 2020.
2 more games that year, 2 more games in 2020.
Because Indianapolis was the only game he did it this year.
It's hard for me to remember some of the blowouts from that year.
Yeah.
Did they? Oh God, there were a lot of blowouts. The Sunday Night Football Patriots game.
No.
Okay. That was a big one, though.
Yeah, that was a huge win, but not the highest quarterback rating.
Were they bad teams? Is that the reason why I'm struggling with it?
One team was supposed to be good that year, and they weren't. Another team was also supposed to be good. They're always supposed to be good recently, and they just aren't. And then two were bad.
Always supposed to be good and just aren't.
They're paper champions.
Paper champions. I don't know who you're referring to.
I will tell you it happened on my birthday.
Well, now I know. If you had just told me that to begin with, of course. It was the... I don't remember who they played. I don't. You're going to tell me the other.
The season opener, September 13th, 2020, a 152.1.
Oh, I was thinking of 19. I was thinking of the 19 season.
Oh. But yeah, that's another team that was their quarterback has been in the news a lot recently. Their former quarterback.
Oh, the Texans.
Yeah, the Texans. 139.2 and 41-7 win over.
Is the paper champion one the Browns? Is that what you're referring to? Okay.
Yeah, in 2020, they opened the season on my birthday, like 3 years out of 4.
How about that? What's your birthday?
September 13th.
Well, how about that? Mine's the 6th.
Yeah. I know your birthday, man.
I don't know. I barely know my wife's birthday. It's April 25th. I do know my wife's birthday. Oh, God, I should get her something.
That's the day after my mom and my stepdad's anniversry.
How about that? I think that's why they chose it, isn't it? They didn't want to take the shine away.
We know that Mrs. Clark was born on the 25th.
Man, come on, we can't interrupt that. All right, just tell me the others.
December 12th, 2019, 134.4 and a 42-21 win over the Jets.
I forgot that. The Jets that year.
December 20th, 2020, 133.1 and a 40-14 win over Jacksonville.
Yeah, I mean, remembering these bad teams, like games that you just forget about them ever happening. All right, very good. Tidbit, or how about just a reminder that you need to know the risks and have a plan before you start gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. Tubular brought to you by the Baltimore Police. Join a proud new generation of Baltimore Police and make an active difference in your community. Start with competitive wages and excellent benefits on day one. Join for good at bpdrecruit.org. Here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise. The final match in qualifying for the World Cup is tonight. The U.S. Costa Rica, 9 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. As long as the U.S. doesn't lose like 6-0, they're good. Which, of course, famous last words, but everybody's making a big deal about them doing that banner bit the other night where it said they were qualified and they're not actually qualified yet. I'm not all that worked up about it, but just don't F this up.
Don't pull a Carson Wentz against the Jags.
God, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Anyway, that's tonight, 9 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Maryland baseball scored like 26 runs against Towson yesterday. They're in action at 3 o'clock at George Mason on ESPN+. Good local D3 lacrosse rivalry. Stevenson-Salisbury tonight at 7. You can watch it on Salisbury's website, suseagulls.com. Maryland women's lacrosse at Georgetown tonight at 7 on Flow Sports. God, Loyola took their first loss last night by 1 goal at Syracuse. So there's only one unbeaten left in the women's game. It's North Carolina. My God, it was a hell of a game. I was watching a good bit of it. Or listening anyway in the car after I finished the Spalding game, and it was a thriller. They just came up 1 goal short.
My cousin Erica had a full ride scholarship to play lacrosse at Syracuse. She was number 3 player in the country.
What happened?
She went there.
Oh, okay. I mean,
she went there and she played against Maryland a couple times in the national championship.
You didn't say like she played. You just said like she had full ride. I thought something went wrong.
She was legit.
Like she lost her leg in a boating accident or something. I was like, oh, God.
Forklift accident.
Oh, even worse. Even worse.
No. She played. She was a star. Now she's a medical.
Oh, it's lovely.
She's a medical sales.
Congratulations to her.
She's awesome.
Well, wonderful. I'm happy to hear it. NBC Sports Washington. Magic Wizards tonight at 7. ESPN's got Heat Celtics at 7:30. Suns Warriors at 10. I need the U.S. to like make sure they lock things up quickly so I can watch the Suns game tonight. Please take care of that for your boy. TNT Rangers Red Wings at 7:30. Knights Kraken at 10. Tennis Channel Miami Open continues actually right now. That's back underway. Orioles back on Masson this afternoon against the Rays. Josh Fleming and Bruce Zimmerman, the pitching matchup at 1. MLB Network for Braves Red Sox at 1. Mariners Cubs at 4. TBS for AEW Dynamite tonight at 8. Some non-sports highlights.
Roman Reigns is going to be on the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon at 11:35.
WrestleMania.
You've got Trust No One, The Hunt for the Crypto King, a Netflix documentary, and the series premiere of Moon Knight on Disney Plus. Isn't there something about that? Like, didn't the main villain die after they?
There's a story there, and I've already forgotten what the story is. There is a story there. Yes.
I think it was something like the guy who plays the main villain in the series died after production, and they're kind of like, well, now what do we do?
Moon Knight. Which is Oscar Isaac is who stars in it. I'm not. I'll figure it out. Anyway, I'll look at it at some point. It's not a priority. You know what show I looked at on Hulu that I'm like not sure how I feel about it, but I'll finish it. I looked at the Amy Schumer program, the Life and Beth.
What?
I looked at that.
What prompted you to do that?
I like Amy Schumer.
Really?
I've always Amy Schumer. We do this bit.
Like you and her mom are like the only two people.
No, that's not remotely true. Amy Schumer's very popular. It's just that there's certain people that push back because they didn't like the fact that she made jokes about her vagina. You know what I mean? Like it.
Let's get a look at that vagina.
Yeah, the old vagina there. Amy Schumer's funny. Now, this is not a slapstick comedy show, which is what makes it so interesting, right? I think it's the way they incorporate. Of course, I've always liked Michael Cera and always will like Michael Cera. The way they incorporate comedy into a dark kind of show is fascinating. It catches you completely off guard. Like the places where they interject comedy without there being like a laugh track, you have to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you catch it, you're like, oh my God, that's hilarious. But it's hilarious, and it plays to Michael Cera so perfectly, and what we know of him and the characters that work for Michael Cera, it plays so perfectly into his hand. He is awkward. He is a farmer. He does not know exactly how to. He's a nice guy, but he does not know how to operate within general society.
He's very unassumingly funny, and it makes me want to see the show.
It's out of nowhere. Look, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a enjoyable watch because again, it's kind of deep and it's dark, but where the comedy comes from is just so unexpected that you genuinely enjoy it and appreciate it. I like the show. I like it. It's not the greatest show I've ever seen. I like it.
And what's it called again?
Life and Beth.
Life and
I'll
Beth.
give you this tease. It involves at her mom's funeral, a Madonna flash mob.
Oh.
And a propose. You got to watch the show.
Maybe I'll check it out. Laura and I, the wife and I, are looking for new shows to watch.
It's worth the view. I'm not going to oversell it. I'm not trying to tell you this is not Winning Time. This is not Righteous Gemstones. This is not something I would. It's a really interesting watch and catches you off guard with how absurd the comedy is at times.
Okay.
All right. Thanks today to Greg Rosenthal. Thanks to Marc Ross. Thanks also to Drew Forrester. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
Archives.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. If you missed Simply the Bets yesterday, you can go find it right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline. We do it every Tuesday morning at 11:40 a.m. Brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Ben McDonald is joining us tomorrow. I know that. Anything else we got lined up for tomorrow? Or
not off the top of my
head. I don't think so. We got to work on that. All right. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors, and why do I feel like
Keith Cavanaugh?
He can't come in tomorrow. We're going to have that, but he can't come in tomorrow, unfortunately.
That's right.
But I feel like there was something else that I was. I'm telling you, the week is really screwing with me, man. I apologize. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, the Baltimore Police, Great 8's Memorabilia, Live Casino and Hotel, Underdog Fantasy Football, Blue Line Canine, your local Toyota dealers, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Paul Valley. Follow him on Twitter, at Paul Valley III. Follow Ryan Shell on Twitter. Thanks to him, at RexSpexRyan. Follow us at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks to Jordan, who's back this week and getting videos out and churning out content for us video-wise. Appreciate that. All right, have a great Wednesday evening. Go U.S. Soccer, go Maryland Baseball, Women's Lacrosse, Stevenson Lacrosse. Duke sucks. Ohio State sucks too.